Great. Okay, we have some people coming in. Good morning, everyone. Come on in. I'm going to give you a second to start getting comfortable here. Let's make sure we've got it going here. All right, so hi everyone. I'm Birgit O'Connor and welcome to my studio. I'm so excited that you're here today because in this particular workshop, what we're going to do is pull together different elements. We're going to pull together the idea of a landscape along with the sort of floral, but it's a cactusy kind of thing. And why I moved into the cactus is because not everybody's going to paint the same kind of floral, and people want to expand, and I want to show you how to do things. And like we have like sort of, well, actually it's this one. This one's going to be coming up in a few weeks, and what that is just showing you how to work with texture and trying to keep things simple and create depth in there. So again, it's going to be moving into like that desert series, and I usually like to work in a series. So go ahead and say hello in the chat. I'd love to know if you have taken a workshop from me before. And I know we have some people that have been with me in live workshops. Hi, Ari. It's so nice that you're here. So before I actually go into who I am here, how this works is you will only see me during the workshop. You can go ahead and put some comments in the chat. And then what we do, I can unmute you if needed. And then if you're having a problem, you can raise your hand and I can go ahead and ask you to unmute yourself and we can actually talk. So I'm just taking a look at the chat here, and there we go. I'm going to move it over to the side. So that kind of gives you an idea how this goes. And then we also can move into a private room after where you can see everybody who wants to come. You can hold up your painting and we can talk. So I guess before I continue with what we're doing, I'm going to introduce you to Sue. Sue is our go-to girl here, where if you have technical problems or things like that, she's usually your first point of contact, and she is my assistant. So, Sue, why don't you say hello? Oops, no Sue. Well, she was here, and I know she's here. She's probably.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry. Well, you maybe turn my mic off. So.
I know. Well, Mike's back on. Okay, great. So say hello. You can actually turn on your camera if you want. There you go. So why don't
Hello,
you?
everybody, and I'm glad to be here. And I love the project today. And this is Birgit O'Connor. She's in her studio. Welcome. Yeah, I've been a student for several years and just kind of fell into the role of know-it-all. Let me put it that way.
Well, you're great with like when it comes to devices, because I don't work on devices. I'm always on my computer. So if you have a problem with your iPad or, you know, program, Sue is the person to talk to. Okay. And then Ari, did you see Judy is down there in Santa Fe too? Thank you, Sue. Thank you. Okay. And then, so what's nice about knowing where you're coming from also is that you might see people that are in your area that you might want to connect with, or at least say hi or grab a cup of coffee and all that. That would be fun. So again, who I am, I'm Birgit O'Connor. I've written lots of watercolor books. I've been teaching for years and I have award-winning art. So I've been doing it for a long time. I don't really enter shows that often anymore. It's hard to find the time to do everything that I want to do. And to give you an idea of the scale, if you look behind me, that was actually a 60 by 80 painting. So I used to paint really, really large, and scaling down into the sizes that we work on. were difficult for me. And what was actually interesting is like even when we have a half sheet size painting, that can be challenging for somebody. So it really is interesting. And what's wonderful is that really the same techniques for something as large as that one back there are the same techniques that go into the half sheet size painting and the same brushes and all of that. So it's wonderful to see. Hi, Diana and Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Nice to have you back. And we have so many wonderful people over here. And let's see, we have somebody. Hi, Stephen from the Villages. I've been there before. That was wonderful back there. All right. So how this is going to go is that we have our painting that we're going to look at in just a second, and then I'm going to give you some warm-up exercises so we can get our brushes wet. And if you are an absolute beginner, you may want to kind of lean in that direction. Don't put a lot of pressure on yourself, because what we're going to do here, I was gonna walk over there, but I'll just drag this over here. Okay, so this is our goal for today. And what's wonderful about this is that we're going to get the sky in. And if you're a beginner, what I'm going to do is show you an exercise to where we're actually getting the brush to flow. We're going to look at your water to color ratio, and then how we're going to get the mountains in later, and then work with the shadows, and whether or not you want to push and pull them forward, or do you want to give it more of an atmospheric haze. That's when we go more in depth. And then down here, we're going to have the elements of the cactus flower, which I really like. Now, what I usually do, as you can see from the other paintings, I'm usually much bolder and more intimate with my flowers, but I like this as being like a bridge between both of those areas, especially since we've been working on atmospheric landscapes and then just tying them together. Now, whether or not you put your needles in, like I did not go that detailed with this. And if I was working in my studio just in my own headspace, I might get a little more detail. Who knows what I would do? But I was thinking about this as a lesson and what is manageable for you during our time together. So we are going to get the mountains in. We are going to get all of this in, and then you're going to decide whether or not you want to take it further or not. And when it comes to the needles, whether or not you've masked it, I'm going to show you how you can retrieve them back if you didn't. So I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this. And we'll go over here in just a second. Sue, I'm going to call you back in just here. Did you see anything in the chat? I don't think so. Does anybody have a question before we get started?
Just lots of people from lots of places, some of them first time. And so that's always exciting for them, for sure.
Is
But
anybody
we're glad to
nervous?
have them here too. So,
Did you think anybody's nervous?
not from the hellos, no,
Okay,
but I'm sure the ones that have not been with us before are probably a bit anxious. But I know I was the first time.
yeah, exactly. We always are. So actually, that reminds me. So from being nervous and thinking that you need to keep up, you don't need to keep up. Do what you can. Be comfortable. It's not a race. Don't expect the painting that you're doing today to be an absolute masterpiece. And if it is, fantastic. But right now, what we're trying to do is just give you the techniques, make you basically kind of accountable and show up. And accountable really isn't the right word. It is providing you the space to be creative, which I love. That's much nicer. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to get those techniques down, and then I'll start working on the painting. I am going to provide you with these step-by-step lessons when we get into this particular painting, aside from the exercises. And then we have to allow for drying time. I'm going to show you a video at that. It's an edited version, so we don't have a lot of dead space. And then you can go ahead and apply it to your painting, and we pace it that way. I'm going to get you to a certain spot, and then I will show you the rest of the videos, the more detailed, the more where I kept putting the painting up and stepping back and looking at it and how I decided to make those decisions, whatever I did. And then I think you're going to be happy with this. We always have a lot of fun. Okay, so we have Angela up there in Alaska. Hi there. I just love that we have people from everywhere. It's fantastic. Okay, so let's go over to the table. Oh, actually, let me tell you. I told you who I am, what I've been doing. I live a little bit north of San Francisco, just in case you're wondering where I am, over the Golden Gate Bridge on the coast. So that's why a lot of my scenes may have like ocean, things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look over here and move this over. Okay, so before our workshop, I'm going to go ahead and do a little backup here, and I think we are good. Okay, before our workshop, I sent to you the line drawing. It's already within the workshop module. And Sue, I was thinking about showing them the video again, but I think I'm going to send it on the follow-up email so they can access their account. Oh, let me actually, now that I'm thinking about this, sorry about this. I'm going to go back here. And let's look at this. I just jumped into wanting to do it. Right?
Yeah. While she's setting up for the next little thing she wants to do, to retrieve or to visit your workshop after we're done, you must log into your account with Birgit that you created around the time that you purchased your first course. So you
This
do
would be
have
the
to go
workshop.
back in and log in to see your workshop module. So that's where she's going. That's where she
Exactly.
is.
That's it. I always start with this, and I just was so excited to jump in. So basically, it takes you, thank you, Sue. It takes you to this page because some people that signed up late may not have made it here because I sent them the information via the email. And if you did not get an email, you may have opted out of receiving emails, which is not a great idea. And you would need to go into your account and change the setting, but you can email us later for that and we can talk about it. So basically, we have the material list, the workshop link, and this is where the workshop replay will live from now on. I will also send it to you after our workshop together today. And this was our information to get started. And then we had this preparing the needles and basically setting up. I wanted to give you all that basic information ahead of time. And then what we do now is we would jump into the lesson, which I was trying to do. And then let's see if there's anything else I wanted to show you. I'll go here. What I wanted to also talk about for just a second was this was the reference photo. And I think it would be a good idea to give, because the reference photo and the painting, I'm not trying to paint this exactly. I, this is where a lot of people get trapped in whatever they do, whatever reference image they have or whatever scene you see out in nature is that we try to paint it exactly. And you can, but then it becomes very realistic, and that's fine too if that's what you want to do. But when we start moving more into that artistic realm is when we take the idea of what we see here and then just be more creative with it. So looking at this, what I was intrigued with is I love the blue sky, of course, and then we have the atmosphere, which I've already mentioned, and then the shadows of the mountains, which I really liked. And I used to spend a lot of time up in Nevada, and we did tons of rock hunting and going to Midas up there in Winnemucca and a lot of time. And I, of course, love the other deserts too. Love that. And then in this one here, we have needles. We have all this brush back there. And in my painting, as you'll see, I will try to add some of this, but then I'm thinking about the time together and I didn't want to get stuck in these back here, so I decided to eliminate it. So I'm going to show it to you. And then with the flowers here, do I really want to get trapped in all that detail, which would be beautiful, but then for a 4-hour workshop, that's not going to work. And I could consider thinking of all those little stamens inside. We could always get fussy, but you can do that on your own time in your studio. And then when it comes to the needles, again, you could either mask them or I'm going to show you how to retrieve them. The other thing I really liked, if we look here, you can see we have some depth and shadow. So it's not like bright light. So how do we do this? And we don't have a lot of high contrasting shadows here. This is on the shadow side. So those are the things I'm taking into my thought into that thought process. How am I going to handle that? How am I going to show you that? Because it's a very valuable lesson. Inside the flower, you can see we have some bright light here. This works great. And then we have these shadows on this side. So, I mean, we could have always changed the composition and made high contrasting shadows, but then that takes that. I think that's it is more complicated. So I wanted you to see this is the goal and how we're going to approach it. And I do like the idea of rocks down here if you want to put that element in there. But I didn't think it was necessary. Plus, adding these rocks is going to be longer than a 4-hour period. And then my painting this is not the completed painting, but I think this is where I thought maybe we would get to today. As you can see, I started to add elements back here and then I took them out. And then I decided I wanted to add more uh, depth back here. So I'm going to show you how I would approach it. So this is kind of in the middle range here of where we're going today. All right. So I hope that gives you a better idea. And if you have pictures of mountains and shadows, I'd love to see them. You're always welcome to share them with me if you'd like. And let's see if there's anything else. One last thing before we jump over here. Get rid of this. I did not have this in the class module. I sent this out via the email, and basically it's just an overview of what we were doing in case you didn't make it into the module, because I'm not sure if everybody really always gets there. Some people forget to take it to the next step. This will give you an idea of our materials. You can always integrate your own materials or colors that you like. We have a reference photo like I just went over, and then choosing the paper. Now, what I decided to do with this one is that I created this for a 16 by 20 block because I had a block and I wanted to see how this reacted on that. I usually like to use 300-pound cold pressed paper. I like that a lot. But since I was combining different elements here and thinking of it as a workshop project, not so much as a masterpiece, I decided I'm going to do this on a block. And if we do it on 140-pound paper or the block, like what I'm talking about here, it'll have a tendency to be a little flatter. It won't have the depth that I usually want. So these are all things that I'm thinking about as I'm creating this lesson for you. Okay, and this gives you an idea of the line drawing. I know it looks a little chaotic, but I wanted to give you everything that I was working with. And there we go. So you had the idea of where the shadows are going to go, but don't worry about the shadows. We're going to break it down. Okay, so let's go to the table. And Sue, if you see any questions that have come in since I was just yammering away, then just let me know.
I don't see any questions right now, but I have a comment.
Okay.
Is that when you start showing the lessons via the pre-edited videos, people, I think, would be better served to watch before she's going to give us time to paint after the video.
Yes.
So serve yourself better by watching what she's doing and saving the painting for when she gives us time, because it's easy to get lost if you try to keep up with her while she's painting.
Thank you.
She's fast.
Thank you. Well, with this project too, I think it's actually broken down into much smaller steps because what we're going to do, like here, let me show you here. I practiced these little things just so we got our brushes wet yesterday. So I wanted to just see what would happen for somebody, let's say somebody that has never painted before. With all the light that I have here, you can hardly see anything. But really, I wanted to talk about the water to color ratio back here, getting color, getting a mountain in here, and having them get an idea of the mountains, and then just getting colors in here. I'm walking, don't worry about what you're seeing here. You're hearing my thought process. And then what I was trying to do is think about, okay, how am I going to get them to just get some green on here and be able to retrieve some needles? So that was what I was thinking here. This is just getting brushes wet, getting started, and then we go into the lesson. This lesson will be broken down into the sky first, and then we come down here and get some color in here, and then I think we come back up here into this. So this will be coming up. So I'm going to move that over. And I think in those lessons, I already discussed a little bit about the brushes. The brushes aren't that critical for this one here. What I do want is a blend brush and a natural brush like that, like these. This is a Sable Synthetic Blend. This is a natural brush. And then I have I don't know, I have a synthetic brush somewhere, this is a number 3. But why this isn't as critical as if we're doing a giant flower is we have our sky, but we don't have a huge petal where we're trying to avoid a lot of blooms. The texture in this will work fine and to our advantage. So I'm not too worried about that. This is just scrap paper, basically. And let's see, let's get started here. This one is a Fabriano, so it's a different paper surface. And for you beginners, what that means is, since this is a student quality piece of paper, this will have a little more wood pulp in it, but it's less expensive. So that's why I'm using it, just to get our brushes wet. Okay, my table is at a very slight angle. You can see I just ran water over my palette here. Oops, so you can maybe see a little bit of water in there. And when it comes to my wells, now all this should be in that prepping video, but I'm just going to go over this because it makes me have a starting point. All the wells have just a little bit of color in here. I don't fill them up. I use about a lima bean size. And that way I can add fresh, creamy color if I'm doing a new painting. And that's usually for my big florals or a big atmospheric landscape where I want rich color intensity. Having creamy color is going to give you a richer color intensity. On my table here, you know what? I think I'm going to add, oh, let's see. Sue, maybe you can tell me. I'm going to put this gray thing down. This might be better for you to see. I thought I could get away with the white, but I think that might be too blinding. Is that better, Sue?
I think so.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Okay, so let's get this. So I'm going to show you the trick first, since I have this here, on how to retrieve a needle. Okay, I'm going to add more color into this, but I don't want this to be wet right now, so I'm just going to show this to you. I'm going to take some tape like this, and then wherever you want it, I'm going to make a little V like this. I can always come back to this. Okay, so you can see I have a little V like that. Then I would take a magic eraser, dip it in my water, remove the extra water. Let me find another towel. Like that. And I don't want it to go past this, and I'll just lift this out. I made this larger so you can see it. So if you didn't mask, we'll do things like that so you can get that back. That's just giving you an idea. Okay, so let's start getting our brushes wet. Now this is not going into our big painting yet, not into that one. I want to talk about the water to color ratio. I'm going to move this over so you can see that. And if you have a small piece of paper, that's fine, because I don't want to have a lot of streaks in here. And since this is a student grade paper, it, you know, I wasn't careful at all with this. I wanted to just see what was going to happen for you. So I'm thinking for this here, you could use this or a bamboo hake, but I am thinking I want I don't want too much water on my paper because I want it to dry before I go into my actual painting of everything else. So what I'm going to do is take this synthetic wash brush because it's not going to release as much water. And so I'm thinking we have so many different levels in here. So that's what I have to take into account. I'm going to take my water, put it in my rinse bucket, put it in my palette. I might bring a little water up here. Then I'll take my blue right here and I'm going to put it right there in my palette. So if I use a brush like this to get my sky in, it's going to be streaky. Okay. Or it could get streaky. It could dry faster than I can work. And I don't want that. That's why I'm going to use a large wash brush. And this is not like our other atmospheric landscape where I laid down a lot of water and then the color. I want this to be more even, and I also want this to dry faster. I'm going to repeat this when you see the actual big lesson, but this is a warm-up. So if you can do this with me right now, we're just going to go ahead and get a little bit of color in the sky. What's going to happen is you're going to get a better idea about can you flow that color. Let's just do this. This is not the painting here. We're practicing. Okay. I don't want that hard line there, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the extra water and then soften. Okay. Don't expect a masterpiece. Just do this for a second. I'm going to get a clean towel. And you'll get the basic idea of where we're going today. So go ahead, don't take a lot of time, just get that in there. And while that's drying, it's okay if it blooms. This is not our masterpiece. Then we're going to go ahead and I'm thinking about the drying time. I'm going to get some, maybe I'll do this. I'm going to go ahead and think where I might want some of my flowers, which will be similar to this. Remember, this is warming up. It's a little different than some of my other classes where we're only working with the technique, but I want you to get the concept. And down here, I'm going to do some wet into wet. So I can wet the surface, or maybe what I'll do is take some color, make a green, or maybe add a green. Don't worry. Remember, this is just practicing right now. I'm going to paint around the flowers. It's pretty messy. That's what I'm thinking. I know that this part might feel a little uncomfortable to you because you're going, what in the world is she doing? Okay, now I have all these brush lines because I'm thinking we can work on technique while we're understanding the concept of where we're going. Now with these lines here, I'm going to take a number 30, or I could use a 20. Then I'm going to soften the edges, but I don't want to go from here, or I'm adding too much water. So again, this is technique. I'm going to dip the brush in the water, tap it on the towel, remove some of the extra water, and then I'll soften some of those edges. I don't care if these flowers are circles because this is just the concept. I don't care if the color runs into everything because it's here. What we're doing is we are learning to not add too much water from here. If you do, it's going to be one big messy bloom. And we're going to work on tapping it on the towel, just like that, removing that extra water. Okay. And I'll take more time when we actually get into our real painting. Now for the flowers, I'm thinking, do I want to add the flowers or do I want to add the mountain? I'm going to have to check how that mountain is or how that sky is. This feels, it's slightly damp, but I think it's manageable. So then I'm going to add my mountain. Okay, whatever color I choose. And you're going to hear, I'm going to take a little yellow ochre just right through here. I want you to be able to see it, so I'm not too concerned about it. Then I'm going to go ahead and add my mountain. However we have it on your line drawing, you're not working on your line drawing right now. This is practicing. Okay, and then I'm going to bring my mountain down. You're going to work with your brush strokes. That way you work with your water to color ratio in the palette. Because if it's really dry, it's going to stick. If it's really wet, it's going to bloom. And this is, like I said, that Fabriano student grade paper, so it has a lot of texture in there that I don't want. But basically, we're going to have the sky, then we're going to have our greens, and then we'll get our mountain in here. And then we're paying attention to the drying time. Like if you maybe notice, this area is drier, this is drier, that's wet. I don't usually start a workshop this way, but I think that I thought it would be interesting. Because a lot of times people have very flat paintings. So when we have something like this, how do we think of getting more depth in the painting? And you can see I'm not very careful here. So let's say I want to create a shape. We're going to add more color in here. So use this as your practice piece, just one of them. Okay, just play with that. So that would need to dry before I get my mountains, my shadows in there. I can bring it down further, and then I'm going to get my flowers in here. I'll take just a little pink and maybe just put them in here. Now, if you're a beginner, you can just take your time with something like this. You do not try to keep up with me when I actually get into the other painting. Now, I'm not taking my time to think about the petals. It's the concept. I'm going to get a little bit of yellow in there, and I'm going to allow that to touch the edges there. And then you could reshape them however you want. And then I'm thinking maybe I'll just bring this down a little bit so I have less white space. So then that would need to dry. It would be something similar to this. And then I would be thinking, once it's dry, I'm going to work on my shadows. And I'm just going to show you the difference. So wet on dry, I'll have a different kind of line. We're going to go more in depth into this, and I would work my way through. Then I'll take my other brush here, remove the extra water, and then I would soften. So right now through these things, like I said, this is just working on the concept of what we're doing, sky, flowers, and then we're going to get the shadows in here, and then we're going to soften. Okay. We're going to go much more in depth. And I'm also thinking you can always come back to these little practice pieces. And then I don't think I'm going to worry about the needles in here. If you need me to come back to this, I thought I'd have you maybe do a little practice piece like this so you can work on the needles, but I think we should just jump into the painting. Sue, what do you think?
Yes, take a deep breath and um, reset, and then let's go.
Okay, so are you ready? Because I don't think they need this. I think that would be too confusing right now.
Yeah, I think those flowers will evolve within the painting.
Oh, these? Absolutely. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
I just,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, okay. So let's get started and move over to the real painting. Does anybody have a question or a comment right now? Remember, this is just warming up. It looks, that
Here,
looks terrible. I know that.
Birgit, we haven't told them how we want them to ask those questions, either in the chat or by using the little reaction icon where you raise your hand. Since you
Mhm.
don't have a mic, you need to let
Right.
us know
Well,
silent,
I thought I did
silently.
say that in the very
Did you?
beginning.
I
Yeah, to
missed it.
put it in the
And
chat and they can ask, but you, that was really good of you. So in the reaction, either the reaction, they could raise their hand or they could put it in the Q&A. There should be a little Q&A.
yeah,
Yeah. So they can go ahead and do that. Okay. So, and if you just watch that, that's fine. If you're a beginner and you just come up with something like that, that's successful. Just practice with that. And so, just see what you can do. So now we're going to go into the real painting. And it doesn't seem like anybody has a question. Okay, then let's get started. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to show you um, what we're doing. I'm breaking it down, and then I'm going to give you time to do this. And then what I'll also do is ask you to put in the chat when you're done. And then when I see that most of the people or quite a few people are done, then I'm moving on. But if you are just watching, don't put in the chat that you're done. If you're actually painting, do that. All right, so here we go. Okay. So much to do. Here we go. Now, looking at my sky here, I could use a lot of water, but I don't think I necessarily want to do that right now. I'm going to find a color that I like, and I don't think I necessarily want it to be granular. Winsor Blue Red Shade is basically a phthalo blue, but it leans more towards the red. Now, I like the idea of adding my cobalt blue, and I'm not going to overthink it. What I'm looking for is a color that I might like. That's pretty blue, but I think that might be really nice for the desert. But I do natively want to go ahead and add my cobalt blue into it. I think both of those work well, but the cobalt blue might be a little more opaque. I'm going to lean more towards the Winsor Blue Red shade. I'm also deciding, do I want to have my paper at an angle? What do I want to do? And that's not a bad idea, actually. The reason why I'm not going to use the bamboo hockey brush is because I think it's going to lay down too much water. I'll start with this. Go right over the sky. And maybe I'll bring a little bit of that down into the mountains. And the reason why I'm thinking of that is because that should make it more atmospheric. Now, what I could do, I was going to use this brush, but what if I took my wash brush, hopefully everything's mixed, I like that idea. I'm going to add a little more water. I see that I'm getting some funny little things happening along the edges, so I'm going to have a light touch, like that. Lift my paper. Try to use more water. Let's see what happens. Now, this might not be exactly what I wanted to do. I kind of got a little out of control because I was too eager. I'm tilting it backwards, and then I'm going to add more water here. And I want some of that blue, I want some of that water to run back. Now, this is not intentional. I'm just working with what's happening on the paper. Okay, then I'm going to lift and tilt. I do like the idea of the atmospheric conditions there. I don't like these little things along the edges. Maybe just touch it with my finger. Perfect. Just like that. Now I'm going to babysit that for just a second. Let's look at how much water is on the surface. There's not a lot. It has a dull sheen. And I'm just going to keep an eye on that. Now I could take a towel if I want less color here and try to lift a little bit of it out. I'm not too worried about it, but I don't necessarily want as much blue in there. Okay. So go ahead and get your sky in and go along that edge. Now, if you're painting smaller, you might not have the same issue. I do like the look of that, so I think I'm going to leave that alone. So go ahead and get your sky in. I'm going to babysit that for just a second and let it dry. You can see that I'm keeping this very simple, and that's why I wanted you to practice this. You're going to make a puddle in your palette, and you're going to paint over the mountains, because a lot of times we stop at a spot at each pencil line. You're going to paint over your pencil lines and try to keep it a little lighter in the mountains, because why it's okay to paint over that is we're going to get a sense of atmosphere. So go ahead and do that. And then when you're done, put it in the chat. And don't forget to tip and tilt your paper. Now, if you're working on a quarter size sheet of paper, you're going to go very quickly. And I know for a half sheet, it's going to take you just a moment longer to do that. You're going to work with the water to color ratio in the palette, and then you're going to get it on the paper. Look at Kelly is done super fast. Kelly, are you working on a quarter sheet or a half sheet? Oops, hasn't come in yet. On a quarter sheet. Oh, interesting. Okay. So that actually helps me to have a better idea what you're working on. So we have some great. And Beth, hi, Beth. And you're doing a quarter sheet, excellent, and a half sheet, Diana, great. It's so cool for me to see what you're doing. All right. The quarter sheet will go pretty quickly. Okay. All right. So now what we have to do is also allow that to dry. You need to keep an eye on the edges that it doesn't bloom back in. Great, Liz, that you're doing a half sheet. Okay, excellent. The other thing, yeah, don't forget, if ever you want to talk, you can raise your hand and we can go from there. All right, I'm going to wait for just a couple more people and then I'm going to move on to the next one. So if you're done, put it in the chat that you're done. And if you are a beginner and you're overwhelmed, just like Sue said, take a deep breath and do what you can. Okay, we just need a couple more people. Excellent. Okay, so Deborah, yeah, great. Okay, so that's interesting too. So Deborah said that her painting is a little wet, so she's going to use her hair dryer, and that'll be good too. By using a hair dryer, it's going to flatten the color a little bit more, but it's going to make it more even. Yeah, so you have to keep that hair dryer moving. Great. Okay, and I'm sure, of course, it's still going to be wet, but you're going to keep an eye on it as we go. So here we go on to the next one. Now you can layer, but your painting may be too wet, so you don't necessarily need to, but I'm going to show this to you. Okay, so then that's looking good. I want to add more color into that, but it's really not necessary. But I'm so tempted. Let me just show you how you can do it. You don't have to do this right now, but let's see if this will work. I hope so. I'm going to add some water here with my bamboo hockey brush, right here. This is probably not a great idea, but I'm going to spray it. Then then I'm going to go ahead, then I'll take my towel and try to remove the extra water. Then I'll leave it at a tilt, trying to encourage the color to move in that direction. And to speed it up, I'm going to use a hairdryer. You can see the shine on the surface there. I'm going to speed it up. Now it's accumulating a few little pools down here. So I'm just going to go ahead and lift that out. Okay, so now I know that your paintings are still probably wet, and we could come back to that, but I wanted you to see my process. Do you need to add more color into the sky? I'd like you to ask that, and you could also put it in the chat, and you could speed up the process with the hairdryer, but I was going to move on into the next section because I'm thinking of drying times. Do you need to add more color into your sky? Can you put that in the chat? And Sue, what do you think? Because that takes time.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine saying, well, yeah, you probably could, but you already got it dry, so don't mess it up.
Interesting.
I can go back later, I think, and add some. So
Okay, and then, so yes, done. Okay, so we have Kelly and Beth that are done, and I think we can always come back into the sky. Oh my gosh, and Angela already did a second layer. Oh my goodness. Okay, so then I'm going to continue. This is what I'm thinking is that before I go into the mountains, if you want to add a second layer, you can, but I'm going to show you where we're going to go next. Okay, I'm starting at the top and now I'm going to go down to the bottom and I'm going to recap this just so you can see. Notice the difference, how much lighter that is and where, oops, the amount of color is, oops. Oh, you can see it builds richness. One layer can look flat. And then if we go, let's see, what am I looking at? It also teaches you how to avoid lifting that previous layer of color. That's what I'm thinking. So even if you use a little spray bottle on top just to make it damp, you can, or you come in with that wash brush and you layer. Let's see. And I wanted you to see the amount of water on the surface. It is very shiny, but it is not a bubble of water. So that's what we're looking for. All right, I'm going to go on to the next section because we can always come back to that one. Now we're going to start painting the cactus. We're going to do this in, I think, 2 sections. I want that to completely dry up here, and I'm going to move down into this section. I think I'm going to go into the cactus down here, and my thought, since these are pretty much in the shadow, we don't have a lot of bright light on here, I can still use the blue that I have in this area, and I'm going to go ahead and make a green. Now I'm just using some very inexpensive paper here to test my colors. I have a permanent sap green here. This is a Hansa yellow here. And again, I don't want to overthink this. Let's get a little bit of that yellow over here. I tried to not pollute it. That'll be fine. And you can see we have more blue over here. We have permanent sap green here. You can use that or not. And I'm just going to go ahead and mingle color in. But this gives me an idea of where I want to go. Now everything is masked in this area. I don't know if I want to add a rock or do I want to go darker here. I'm not sure what I want to do yet. Is it important to me? I'm not going to think about it. That puddle is not big enough. So I need to make more color. I'm going to intentionally come in with my Winsor Blue Red shade just because I think it's going to be more vibrant. And bring in some of this yellow, the Hansa yellow. All I'm trying to do right now is make a larger puddle. Let's look at how thick this is. You can see it's not really moving a lot. There's water in there, but it's not running, and that's a good place to start. I could work one of these at a time, and that would be fine, but then it's going to take us forever. So what I want to do is establish my color, and then I'll fine tune it. Now I want color in there. I don't want it to be too diluted, but I don't want it to be too streaky. So I'm going to take my bamboo hockey brush, or I could take my other wash brush, whatever you want to do. Let's take this one since I use that for the sky. And I'm going to just start over here by just getting some water in here. There's a flower right here, a bud. I'm going to stay away from that. I have a few other little buds up here. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm looking for my larger shapes. Stay away from the flowers. And I'm going to plunge in. Let's see what happens. I'd like this to mingle a little bit. Maybe I'll take a bit more of the yellow. I'm going to let the color get polluted. Holding the brush a little higher up the handle. You can see I'm bouncing around here. Refer to your reference photo or point to the area that you're working on. Let's not worry about these little, oh, I'm going to go up into it. That water will save me right here. So I'm going to go ahead and get some more Hansa yellow into it. And I really don't know where I am right now, but I do know this is a flower. I'm going to paint around it. I'm not pressing too hard on my brush. I don't want this all to be in the shadow, even though it looks like it's all in the shadow. I want it to be more interesting. I'm just going to get some color in here. There's a flower. Here's a flower. I'm not worried about my pencil lines. I don't mind if I miss some spots and have some little white areas. I do like the mingling of that. Maybe I'll take a little bit of that Hansa yellow and maybe a little bit of the permanent sap green. I'm not being that careful with my lines. Trying to decide, do I want to, and if I'm not sure where I am, I'm just going to go ahead and put some color in there. I think it's a good start. And I think this is a good place that I can kind of continue to work on and to avoid this from cutting areas off. I'm going to take just a little bit of clean water and touch some of those edges. Just like that. And take some Winsor Blue red shade. See what happens if it mingles in. I'm going right along the edges. And see what happens and where it crawls. And now remember, I'm not trying to do a photorealistic painting. And I'm going to have to remind myself that I'm not doing that. Because I think we can easily get caught up there. And I don't know where this is going to go and how it's going to develop. Okay, so you can see that what I'm doing now is I've broken the painting up. We're going to recap this. And also with what areas did I mask? I masked the needles, and that would have been in our preview video before we actually came to the class, and hopefully everybody had a chance to see that. And that's also why I showed you in the very beginning here, if you didn't do that, how you're going to retrieve your needles. But we don't need to worry about that right now. So there's two ways of doing that. Either you have your needles masked or you're going to retrieve them later. And what we have here is you're also learning. So all this here, all these little areas are masked needles and little dots on those. I don't know what they call that part of the cactus, but it's the cactus. And what we're working on is different technique right now. You're working on the wet into wet. So for beginners, if you don't know what in the world I'm doing here, we had the sky in here, and we're now doing the wet into wet technique, which we practiced before. And then we're softening a few edges. Okay, so what we're doing is we're getting a little bit by wetting this, what I'm doing right now is wetting the surface with clean water, because if I just go on dry paper, the painting's going to look very labored, which I don't want. So if I have the water first and then drop in a little color, I'll leave areas light and have some spaces in between, which are going to start to create some nice trans areas where I can transition the color. I can either come in with more yellow or blues, or if I decided I wanted to highlight, then I would leave it light. So that gives us a lot of options right through here. And I'm not worrying about all the pencil lines. All I'm really thinking about is painting around the flowers. I'm not worried about what little part of the cactus this is or that. I'm working on the right-hand side, making it a smaller area so it's manageable for you. And then we are painting around our flowers, allowing the color to mingle into the wet surface. And where my finger's pointed right here, you can see, well, if I stop in that one spot, I'm going to have that hard line. So to avoid that, I'm going to use a wet brush and just touch that edge. And that way you can see the colors escaping on the left-hand side. And that way it's not going to look dry and labored or like you're just starting out. It's going to look more evolved. And then why we're doing this here is we want to make it more interesting. If it's just one flat color, then, it's going to be very boring. And by going a little darker, we are working with our values. We're just, so, so what I'm doing is I'm giving you all these things right here, which is a lot of the things that we do in watercolor in this one project. Okay, so that is where we're going right now. This is on the right-hand side of the painting. And when you're done, go ahead and put it in the chat. There we go. So you'll have a few minutes to do it. I don't know if I need to, I don't think I need to set a timer on this right now. When you're done, go ahead and put that in. Thank you. I just see TC. Thank you. Hey, Beth, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find you and let's see, find you. So how do you feel about this?
Loving it so far, Brigitte.
Oh, good. So it's working for you. What did you think about that little exercise in the beginning? We don't usually do it that particular way, but what did you
I
think?
love exercises like that, Brigitte. I like things like that. I find just when you usually do just from corner to corner to let the washes mingle in that, I find that boring, but I've been doing this a long time. Anyone coming into it might think differently.
Mhm.
And I'm doing a quarter sheet today, so I'm quick because I've got the smaller sheet than anyone that's doing a half sheet.
Well, for a workshop, a quarter sheet is a better idea for most people. I just don't do quarter sheets. So thank you. Okay, so thank you, Beth. And so what we're going to do the same thing over on the left-hand side. So that's where I'm going next. So remember, don't get too caught up here. We're going to go over to the left-hand side. But I want to make it I wanted to make this in manageable steps for you. Okay, let's have just maybe another person or so tell me that you're done. And then we can move on to the left-hand side. So we're establishing a foundation. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I don't mind if things bloom and feather. I think that's going to be interesting. I'm going to continue with this idea of using my wash brush. I have a big shape in this area. We have 2 flowers here that I want to reserve. I'm going to go ahead and just touch a few spots right through there. 2 flowers will stay dry. There's another flower. We have a bud here and some other spots. So I'm thinking about my greens. 2 flowers. I'm going to start right up here. I like that mingling over there. I don't want to lose that. I'm going to find the edge of my petals. I'm telling myself it doesn't need to be exact. I don't want it to be too thick. I could use my wash brush, or I could use my 30. I'll just use my wash brush and touch a few edges, allow some of that color to escape. I'm going to hold the very tip. Outline some areas there so I know where I'm going. Maybe I'll use my 30. I'm not going to overthink it. I know these are my flowers, so that's basically where I need to go. And I think everything else I can work with. Let's get some color down here. Maybe add a little more of that yellow on this side. Now I really don't want to do too much. I want the water on the surface to carry the color. Allow that color to mingle. And the way it looks right now, I like all this, and I might not add rocks on the bottom. I like what's happening. The other thing that would actually be very nice, I think, is if I take a number 8, add a little bit of texture here and there, hopefully not overdo it. Just a couple little taps, and let's see what happens. Now I'm going to go ahead and let that area dry, and then I'll continue. Okay, so you can see that we're just going ahead and let me take a look here. Oh, thank you, Angela. And so what we're doing is just taking that idea on the right-hand side, bringing it over to the left-hand side. Same thing. Leave what there's so many things that you're doing with this right now. By getting the water in here, you're allowing even the blooms to create some natural texture there. Get water right up there in that little corner. Stay away from the flowers. Leave the flowers dry. Okay, just so you can see, you can bring your color with your other little brush up to the flowers, just like that, and allow it to touch the water and transition. And then for all those other little spots, the things where the flower is attached to, just go ahead and fill those in using the same technique. Remember, you can see even here that it's not just one flat color. This is starting to, it will build depth. This is our foundation. Let's see where we're at. Just like that. Oh, what's also nice is if you pay attention to the drying time, where I spattered a little bit of water, like if you look in the middle and over on the right-hand side, if it's really too wet, you're not going to be able to get that texture. But if you have it with a dull sheen on it and just tap a little tiny bit of water in there, if you feel like it creates a very nice little texture. So when you're done, just go ahead and put that in the chat. I usually give everybody a time, like 10 minutes or so, but I don't think we're there yet, Okay, is already done. Okay, and then let's see. How about let me find Gay, and I'm going to ask you, Gay, how are you doing? You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like.
Good morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
doing well, thanks. This is fun. I'm just kind of painting along and letting it happen.
Exactly. And then we're going to get to what's wonderful about this is being spontaneous, and then we can always get fiddly later. So this is great. Thank you. And do you have anything else to add? Is there anything that would be helpful for you?
Um, no, I think it's I'm happy with the format you're using. I think it works out well.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Kay. Okay, well, get ready to paint some more. We're going to do that in just a second. Thank you. Okay, so then when you're done, put it in the chat. And I think we had one more. Okay, Cheryl's done. Excellent. Let's have a few more people be done. Excellent. Wonderful. Oh, look at you, Speedies. All right. Excellent. Okay, then let's continue. And if you are a slower painter, don't worry. Just do what you can. That's why I showed you the thing in the very beginning. Okay. Okay, right now I really like what I have. I don't want to get rid of my greens because I want to come back to this. Okay, I stopped it for just a second because now we need to let it dry for just a second. So just to give you an idea. So here we go. This is almost dry. This is dry. So what I'm going to do is use my plastic sheet right here as my palette and move this over. I was trying to decide if I wanted to change my water, but I'm going to keep going with it. When it comes to landscapes, I really like yellow ochre. I want it to be more earthy. Now I did smash, I know I've got a chunk of color right in there. Now that would be what I want. That's pretty good. I don't want this to be dry and pasty. So I want enough water in here. And I'm trying to decide what brush do I want to use. Do I want to use the 20 or the 30? If I use the 30, I'm going to apply too much water. So I can probably touch this without smearing. And I'm going to go ahead and just find my pencil line. Right around the edge. And bring that down. Notice how the tip is touching the pencil line. I'm trying to get close. And if I feel that it's too much color or I need more water, I'm going to go ahead and put a little more water in here so it's a bit more transparent. Let's go ahead and do that. Right along that pencil line. Let's take a little Winsor Blue Red shade, bring that into that. Why I'm doing this is because I want to have the impression of atmosphere and distance. Let's let the water carry the color. And I'll let that water move. Then I'm going to bring it down into the floor of the desert. I'm thinking about using my number 30 brush right now because I don't want too much color. And then go up to the pencil line of my flowers. I still have quite a bit of water on here. Let's take a look. Then I'll bring just a little more water right down here. I'm trying to decide if I want more color or just water. I'm not really worried about overlapping lines. And I'm going to try to not lift really a lot, just make it a little lighter. Maybe I'll lift out a tiny bit here and there. Not much. I really wanted the color along the edge. And now let's go ahead and let that dry. I think this is going to be so much fun. Okay, so now where we're at, I'm going to recap this. I can always play it again, but this, if you have a idea of what I'm doing here, is I'm thinking about the drying time. We have our sky that should be dry now. We have our bottom that should be drying. And then we're coming in, creating our color combination. I have a little yellow ochre in there. I really like yellow ochre for landscapes. If you have a favorite color, you can use that. You can bring in a burnt, whatever you like. And I can play this again. Now, I want you to notice the size of the puddle that I'm making here, and then the size brush that I'm using, because I'm using it's almost like a half sheet. And so that's why I'm using the number 20. If you are using a smaller piece of paper, you may decide to use a number 14. You can still use a 20. I also want you to notice how I'm holding the brush, where the tip is. I'm using the tip right along the edge of the pencil line. And that way I'm going to have that little puddle carry the color. Just like that. And I don't want it to be flat, so it's okay if some of that other color starts to mingle in. And then I'm going to even turn my paper upside down. And why I'm doing this here is I'm allowing that water to run back to that ridge line and create more of that edge that I was looking for. Just like that. And there are going to be stages in here where you might think, I love my painting. I don't want to do anything else. You don't have to. Okay, let's find Georgia. You are the person I was thinking about, Georgia. Let me find you here. There you go. How are you?
Good. This is so much fun. I just had a quick question. I guess I was screwing around. Did you wet the mountain range first before you put the color down?
Oh gosh, now I have to even remember, because I think, let's look at that. Because I wanted them, let's go ahead and play this again. Okay? Does that sound okay?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay,
I'll pay
awesome.
attention this time.
Whatever you do will be fine. Okay. Okay, right now I really like what I have. I don't want to get rid of my greens because I want to come back to this. This is almost dry. This is dry. So what I'm going to do is use my plastic sheet right here as my palette and move this over. I was trying to decide if I wanted to change my water, but I'm going to keep going with it. When it comes to landscapes, I really like yellow ochre. I want it to be more earthy. Now I did smash, I know I've got a chunk of color right in there. Now that would be what I want. That's pretty good. I don't want this to be dry and pasty. So I want enough water in here. And I'm trying to decide, what brush do I want to use? Do I want to use the 20 or the 30? If I use the 30, I'm going to apply too much water. So I can probably touch this without smearing. And I'm going to go ahead and just find my pencil line. right around the edge, and bring that down. Notice how the tip is touching the pencil line. I'm trying to get close. And if I feel that it's too much color or I need more water, I'm going to go ahead and put a little more water in here so it's a bit more transparent. Let's go ahead and do that. Right along that pencil line. Let's take a little Winsor Blue red shade, bring that into that. Why I'm doing this is because I want to have the impression of atmosphere and distance. Let's let the water carry the color. And I'll let that water move. Okay, then I'm going to bring it down into the floor of the desert. I'm thinking about using my number 30 brush right now because I don't want too much color. And then go up to the pencil line of my flowers. I still have quite a bit of water on here. Let's take a look. Then I'll bring in just a little more water right down here. I'm trying to decide if I want more color or just water. I'm not really worried about overlapping lines. And I'm going to try to not lift really a lot, just make it a little lighter. Maybe I'll lift out a tiny bit here and there. Not much. I really wanted the color along the edge. And now let's go ahead and let that dry. That was a great question, Georgia, because it was wet on dry. And why I did that was I wanted to have a stronger color intensity, and that's why I used the number 20 brush, because I wanted a brush that would hold more water and color. And then making sure that I had the water in there, and then brought it down around the flowers. The other thing that was interesting, or what I was thinking about, is that I didn't want it to be flat. So I came back in and lifted a little color out on some of those lighter mountains. And you can always refer back to the reference photo if you wanted to see which ones I'm talking about. So when you're done with this, go ahead and put that in the chat. And we're going to do more work on this, but I also did like it. There's so many different moments that I liked it as is. So you're going to see what you like. So I'll go ahead and I'll let you paint. Oh, Ari. Okay, Ari, I'm going to go ahead, and I was thinking about you too, especially you in Georgia. Let me find you. And because you are down there in the desert. So Ari, so tell me, what do you think? Oops, I just accidentally muted you. You're going to have to unmute yourself again.
This is great, Birgit. This is fabulous.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, the desert feels so familiar. The high desert here around Santa Fe feels so familiar, you know. I'm enjoying this lesson. Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to
And
do.
I think what I'm right now, my focal point is also not fiddling with things. Just let's see how it evolves, what happens. And because sometimes I have a tendency to go back in And that's when I screw it up.
Well, you know what?
Yourself back.
I'm going to go back in. And that's why I'm trying to warn you that there are going to be moments like when I'm doing a lesson too. Like, do I want it to be? Of course, I'd love it to be perfect, but I know that everybody's going to do something. And like, how are we going to recover from those things?
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
so-
for instance, can I say something?
Yes.
So I put in the mountains, and then the foreground of the mountains I made very transparent. And then I go, oh, do I really want that? Oh, I just gonna wait and see and see what comes next, no? So I can always go back in later, I guess. Yeah.
Well,
Thank
see,
you.
oh, you're welcome, and thank you so much. And I would love to look out your window right now to see what in the world you're looking at, and so how we could translate that. Maybe we'll need to elaborate, or maybe even do we can have conversations about that. I would love to do that.
Plein air.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I like that idea a lot. Okay. Okay. So anyway, looking at this too, because I like when we looked at the reference photo, there were those bushes in the back. And I like this like what we're seeing right now. And maybe if I did this again, I might not put those bushes in there. So I just, we'll see. Okay, let's see where we're at and how many people are done and can we move on? So let's have a few more people's, that are comfortable to move on. That would help me and then we will. Great. Excellent. Look at you guys. I love this. All right, let's continue. And again, if you're slower, don't worry. Just do what you can in the pace that you can. You can always watch the recording. Now it's still a little damp. I'm going to try to work with that. I'm going to take my Windsor. So one thing I wanted you to notice how I'm going from the sky to the bottom, thinking of the drying time. Now going to the mountains, that's going to allow, that will dry, and now we can go down to the bottom again. Blue, red shade. Maybe I'll bring a little indigo into that. Let's see. Try to create some shapes. All I'm doing is applying my color and softening an edge. I'm just using the idea of shapes. Now, I liked so much about this, and I don't want to do too much to it, but I do want areas to stand out. I'm just touch an edge. I'm just going to stop it for 1 second because what we're doing right now is we are, as you can see, we're pulling shapes out of that wet into wet wash. And so we're also doing a little negative painting. Our pencil lines are our guides, but what we're doing is we are finding our shapes. And let's see what develops. Just touching an edge. I'm also holding my brush higher up the handle and try not to do too much because right now that's too wet. I could easily try to overdo it here. I'm going to try to avoid that. We're going to see what happens once that dries. I think that's interesting, but I'm trying to decide if I need to do more. What I think I'm going to do is where I have these little spots, I'm going to come in with the same color here and maybe just try to go around these spots. I'm going to stop it for just a second because those spots are where the needles are coming out of. So I don't want to get rid of everything. And I don't want it to spread too much. I think that's kind of nice. Then I'll go ahead and do the same thing over here. Find those spots where those needles come together and soften a few of them. Remember, I'm not trying to be photorealistic. Just suggest. We'll have some spots over here. So for a second, I think I'm going to step away and change my water and think about it. Okay, so what I can also do is play this again. What we're doing is looking for those negative shapes. You can see what's happening on the right-hand side. And then I came in, added color around where the needles pull together. So that way we're getting more shape in that cactus. So I'll go ahead, play this again, and that way you know exactly where I'm at. And when you're done, put it in the chat so I know how you're doing. And if you have a different question, please feel free to ask it. Now it's still a little damp. I'm going to try to work with that. I'm going to take my Winsor Blue red shade. Maybe I'll bring a little indigo into that. Let's see. Try to create some shapes. All I'm doing is applying my color and softening an edge. I'm just using the idea of shapes. Now, I liked so much about this, and I don't want to do too much to it, but I do want areas to stand out. And just touch an edge. And let's see what develops. Just touching an edge. I'm also holding my brush higher up the handle and try not to do too much, because right now that's too wet. I could easily try to overdo it here. I'm going to try to avoid that. We're going to see what happens once that dries. I think that's interesting, but I'm trying to decide if I need to do more. What I think I'm going to do is where I have these little spots, I'm going to come in with the same color here and maybe just try to go around these spots. And soften an edge. I don't want to get rid of everything, and I don't want it to spread too much. I think that's kind of nice. Then I'll go ahead and do the same thing over here. Find those spots where those needles come together and soften a few of them. Remember, I'm not trying to be photorealistic. Just suggest. We'll have some spots over here. So for a second, I think I'm going to step away and change my water and think about it. Okay, so we're at a spot where we've established a pretty good foundation, and then we are going to work on the flowers. But before we get to the flowers, I want you obviously to do this portion, and then I think I could give you a 10 to 15 minute break. We usually take one about now or in about 20 minutes. And, you know, we could use a break, or I could move on to the establishing of the flowers. But let me know when you're done with that, and then we can. I'm sorry, I just got distracted over in the chat there. And then we'll figure it out. So this is where we're going right now. I think I'll leave this one up so you can see where it's dark and where the shapes are. And I would say maybe this might take you 10 minutes. Maybe yes, maybe no, maybe less. So I think, let's see, I'm going to take a, well, I was just thinking of the technical stuff. I said, do I want to take a screenshot and then put up the timer? But no, I don't need to do that. Let's just leave this up. So I am still here if anybody wants to ask questions. And even if you're just observing and you have a question, let me know. Hi, Jill. So what we did is for the cactus part, we used basically you can use a yellow and a blue. I used a Hansa yellow, I think a Hansa yellow light, along with maybe a permanent sap green. I can also use the Hansa yellow light mixed with my blue. I usually would go for a French ultramarine blue, but that might be a little duller. So I'd have to go back. I can't actually. I think that was pretty much it. A permanent sap green mixed with the yellow. I did set a timer just so I can evaluate how everybody's doing. And like I said, when you're done, go ahead and put that in. Let's see if you are up. Okay, there we go. Make sure that we have everybody muted in the background too, just in case. Excellent. Thank you, Stephen. Let's find you. I'm curious how you feel about what you're doing here. We have a few minutes. Hi, Stephen. If you'd like to talk or unmute yourself, you can.
Well, this is very interesting. I just returned from Arizona from Thanksgiving, and I can relate to what I'm seeing in your painting, maybe not in my painting.
How? Oh, well, it just takes a minute and you're right on top of it. So you're going to have to put it up and step back. So don't worry, you're doing just fine. Do you, what do you have a challenge or how's it feeling to you?
I think my problem is I use too much water,
Yes.
and I have to learn how to control my water use.
So what kind of brush are you using?
I'm using your brushes. I've got my 20 and my 8, I think it's 18, no, 14. I've been using those two.
So are you going from your rinse bucket directly into your palette and then into the painting?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay, well, you can do that rinse bucket into your palette, and then you might want to once you have the color on there, you might want to tap it on the towel a tiny bit. You have to adjust it.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
try that next.
Yeah. So I'm really happy that you've identified that you're adding too much water. So I think you need to remove just a little bit of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will
Thank.
do that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And then Diane, let's see, you have water control issues too. Not at, oh, let me find you if you're up for talking, because so you're having to dry, I guess. Let's see. Where did I put that? Make sure that I have the right Diane. Okay, just Diane. Okay, great. Okay, Diane, I've made it so you can talk if you'd like to. Okay, great.
Okay.
Hi. So
Hi.
what's happening? You're in, you have two, it's too dry?
First, I think I need to clarify that I've been bouncing around with trying different papers.
Okay,
And I know that that'll have an effect.
right,
When you were doing your mountain,
right.
you were getting the paint. Now I'm using an Arche 140-pound cold press.
Okay.
I've not really used this very much because well, I'm saving it for a rainy day, I guess.
Mm.
And when you're mountain, you could let the water run.
Mhm.
Mine's just sitting there. So either I don't put enough, and it has to be, I guess, more on the paper.
Well,
I don't know. Where does the water need to be? On the paper or on the brush?
okay. Well, so it depends because like
Okay.
yeah, because like if you look at this shot here with the cactus, I had water on the surface and then I added the color. And if you notice right there, you can see all those different light and dark areas, right?
Right.
Okay, so that created kind of a transition. And then in the mountains, we still have a transition, but the color is more even. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, that's because and it's stronger color too. So I came in wet on dry. And I used a number 20 brush. So what's happening is you need to bring more water into your water to color ratio in the palette. And
Okay.
you apply it. Yeah.
Okay.
Give that a try. And
I will.
use a number 20 brush.
Okay.
Let me tell
Thank
you.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. And then Sue, yeah.
Well, on the topic of experimenting with other papers, I had a 12 by 16 block of Dick Blick's attempt at making a professional paper. So what I'm finding is that it's different, obviously, from painting on my 300-pound arches, which I love. And so I'm not getting exactly the same effects that you are. So if somebody's out there and they're using anything but what was in the material list, then you're going to probably have different results on your paper, especially associated with water color ratio. So you just have to experiment for the paper that you're working on, see what happens, learn a lesson, and be ready to apply it in the future.
Well, this was a block of 140-pound Arches paper, which worked well. And then, like you saw the demo that I did in the very beginning, which is so light, that was that Fabriano. And it just kind of sits on top of the surface and slides around. So it doesn't really give me the color intensity. So if you're doing the painting like Sue said, and you have a different kind of paper, that's going to affect the results. But that in for this today, it really doesn't matter. Really, what we're doing is we're getting comfortable with it. And then you can always take your time without the stress of me going, hey, okay, we're moving on to the next thing. So
Well,
that, go ahead.
I just wanted to share that experience that I was having because it reminds me not to be a perfectionist and that this is an experiment and that work with what's happening on the paper. And I'm like a previous student, I've got a little too much water going on here, I do believe, because my paper can't handle it. So I have to adjust my approach. I did pretty well in the mountains, but when I got down here trying to get darks in and find shapes and all that kind of stuff, I kind of lost control. So,
Well, that's difficult.
yeah. Well, and it's just something I'll have to work with as I bring the flowers in and go back and redefine areas that I have misinterpreted at this point.
Mhm.
So,
And we're going to keep those flowers very pretty simple, basically like I would love to spend the time working on, if I really want to get fussy, then I would do that. But since this has a looser feel to it, we're going to keep it loose. We have the idea where the petals are going to go, and then we're going to work with the shadows on that. So we're going to do that in just a second. And then to answer Cindy's question, in general, I usually use a Hansa yellow medium. And I'm trying to think, I just did, I can't remember what painting it was. Maybe it was this one where I brought in a tiny bit of Hansa yellow light. I don't usually use that, but I used that on a painting and I really liked it.
that was on the yellow rose, I think.
Was it the yellow rose? Was it that one?
You just used a little bit. You
Yeah.
didn't really go wild with it.
Yeah, but there was another. Oh, was it the plumeria?
Maybe.
Maybe it was the plumeria. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm thinking about is everybody's surface drying time right now. Should we take a 10-minute break? Do you want to all go, like a bathroom break or get yourself a cup of coffee or tea, and then we will work on the flowers? Okay, let's do that.
Oof.
Okay, I heard that sigh. Okay, we
Yeah.
will take a 10-minute break and then Gay, go ahead. Oh, I think you can unmute yourself, Gay. Let's see if you can. Otherwise, I'll go and find you here. Okay, go. Oh, there you go. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry, I hit the raise hand by mistake.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I was just saying, yes, I'll take a break.
All right. I think 10 minutes, or I don't think we need 15, but let's see how that goes. And then I'll go ahead and I will move this. I will show you my table here. Oh, I'm going to get rid of this file. There we go. This looks terrible, doesn't it? Okay.
I do have a question or a comment. I like the blooms that are happening because I kind of got a little carried away with some of my water in the cactus area and stuff, but I really like the blooms. I think it's going to be good.
I think they work really well for this painting. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here so you can see, and I'll put the timer up and I'll be like you and I'll take a 10-minute break. And I think I'm going to make myself a cup of hot chocolate. So let's go ahead and
And
find.
you can take my face off the screen.
Are you on there still? I don't think that you're on. I didn't know you're on there. Let's find you. Huh. Let's see. Let's see.
Well, I'm on my screen. I don't know
Oh,
about everybody else, but I can see my face up there.
okay. Then let's see. I'm gonna do that. There we go.
I'm not seeing Gay.
You're not seeing Gay?
Oh, I
No.
guess I'm just seeing me.
Oh, okay. All righty. Let's take a look. And there we go. Oh, I saw what you're saying. I think. There we go. I'm gonna
That's
pin.
better.
Okay, got it. All right, then I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes and then you should be able to see a timer. There. Because if anybody walks away and they go, what happened? They'll be able to see that. All right, let's take a break.
All over, Joe.
All right, I'm coming back in here. Here we go. I'll put that over here for a second. Actually, can't even see it there. Let's see. I think we still had a minute. So if anybody would like to say anything, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And let's go ahead. Diana, okay, let's see. Let's find you. Hi, Diana.
There you go. Hi, Birgit.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. So, for me, I get lost, and this happened to me with the wild iris. And with the wild iris, what I did was I did one, and I just considered it a study. And then the second one I did, and it was great.
Oh, good.
Because then with my line drawing, I knew I was able to just be a little bit more careful with it and make sure that I really saw those shapes. But otherwise, I'm doing fine. What I've been concentrating on is just the technique and the colors, and so it's fine. It's a good learning.
Thank you. Yeah, so no, workshops, like whether or not you do an in-person workshop or even an online workshop, we're just not in the same space of
Yeah.
right? So we put those expectations on ourselves that we should create something fantastic, but it's not about that. It's about learning.
Yeah, no, I didn't have that expectation. What I find though is I do get lost. But
Okay, so tell me where you're lost. Well, there are a lot of lines.
yeah, and just the shapes. And when I did the line drawing, I thought, okay, I know, I know where everything is. But when we started painting, I think I was looking at what you were doing. I was looking at my paper, and I wasn't looking at the reference photo. And maybe if I had looked at that, I would, that might have helped too.
Well, there's a couple things. What I did, because like if I, I don't even know if I'm, because you're getting it the way I broke this down in my mind, sky and this and that. And also thinking then about a workshop, how do we break this down in a manageable project for the period of time that we have together? Because it's not like we have the 6-week courses that can go, that allow people to go a lot longer at their own pace. And it's just different. This is kind of like crash and burn. And the idea here is what's nice about this is when we think about this, we're unifying colors, really. So it's not like this is just one entirely different color and another one over here. And what throws us off, I think, are those needles. So, like if we just thought of this as the shape and then these are the flowers, that might be a little easier for you.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to think of, but also if you looked at the reference photo, then you're going to try to paint everything that you see, and I'm trying to think of you as
That's true.
big blocks, block, block, block. And then we're going to this, think about all these
Yeah.
flowers as a block. We're doing a block of color.
So this is where I am right now.
I can't see your painting.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's why we can go into the meeting room after.
Okay.
So we can do that. Okay,
Okay.
and then also who is it? It says Stephen, but I know that from your voice, you're not Stephen. That we're not going to do. I have this one as a lesson, but I figured that would be a 6-week course. What I have is this as a manageable project coming up, and Sue, you would know, it's coming up in a couple weeks. We do it every other week, not back to back. So what's nice about this, it's the same idea of what we're doing here.
Isn't that the prickly pear cactus workshop?
Yeah.
So it's like this one, it's 4 hours.
Yeah, right. So that one's a 6
That
week,
one's, yeah, right. That one's 6 weeks.
right. And I wanted to add more to that for a 6 week.
I don't think we've scheduled that one yet.
No, we haven't, but this one is.
Yeah,
What's interesting about this is that you're gonna, like, I don't have needles on this one. The cactus didn't have needles. It's the same idea as what you're doing here. We're unifying all of this as one big block, doing the wet into wet. This would be a lighter area that has more water, less color. And then we would layer color and then we break it apart into those pads and then we work at the high contrasting shadow. So the idea here is to get a bit more depth in there. The one that we're doing today is about combining both the atmosphere and the idea of the flowers and all this, and also trying to get a little deeper back here. So each project, I focus on different skills.
prickly pears, the next, I think it's March 7th. I
Okay.
just looked it up.
Thank you. Maybe I'll put a link in the chat for that. I'll find it. Thank you, Deb. I see that. Okay. Alrighty, let's move on to the flowers. Here we go. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, add the flowers. There we go. It's time to start thinking about the flowers. I have a quinacridone pink from Daniel Smith, and then I have a quinacridone magenta from Winsor & Newton. I think I'm going to go for the quinacridone pink. Let's go ahead and make a little puddle. That's a little too much. And my original thought was, I can go ahead and put my shadows in and then put the petals in, but I'm going to go ahead and put these flowers in first. I'm going to get water in here and water here around my center. Then take my number 20. Let's see what happens. And the same thing over here. And just let it move in the water. Maybe I'll take a little bit of that Hansa yellow medium. I don't really want to turn it into an orange, but I think it might be fun to let it mingle directly on the paper. I don't want it mixed. I want it to mingle. And then touch the edges. Okay, we'll start with that. Then move over here. Go along the top, along the pencil line. I'm not worried about each individual petal. Let's see what develops. I think that's kind of interesting how that's escaping down here. I've got quite a bit of water. I guess I was going. Oh, somebody has their mic on. Got a little bit of yellow in here. That yellow is going pretty orange. This is escaping. I'm going to go ahead and try to lift a little bit of that out. Then I'll continue over here, getting the water inside my flower. And just letting the water carry the color. I'm going to stop for just a second. Is the video going okay for everybody, or is it frozen? It's frozen for Diana. Let's take a look.
Mine is perfect, Brigitte.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll continue with this. Let's go up into that big flower. Now, if it's important for you to paint each individual petal, you can. But I like the feel of this. I like how free this is. And I'm deciding if I wanted to come into these here. I'll give those a minute. And I don't want to fill everything in. I want to keep it kind of loose. I think this is going to be more controlled up here, and that's not necessarily what I want. I'm going to see what happens. Let's go ahead and get water in here, right through there, right up here. Working my way down. I'm not going to worry about the stamens, so I'm just going to do a little negative painting around them. Now we're going to let that dry and go back to these other buds. Just going to get water right in here. Just a little bit here and there. Using my number 20 blend brush. I could use my 14. Now I think what I'd like to do is let that naturally dry to a point, and then once it feels like it's found its place, then I can go ahead and finish the drying process with a hairdryer. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and then I think I'm going to come up into the mountains. Okay, so Sue,
Yes.
what's going on? Is it freezing?
For several people around the country, there's freezing going on, but everything coming from you is okay as far as the rest of us. So, we've got no issues in many places, and we've got occasional issues. So basically, it can vary with your internet provider, your internet speed, your anything technical between here and Bolinas can interrupt the signal.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
we're okay on this end, so I'm sorry.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that. I just texted my husband too and barked at him and told him, get off the internet. I didn't say it like that. I said, in case he is on the internet, to get off. So just in case. And I appreciate we have a lot of people that have said that that it's fine. So that's great. And Gaze says that hers shows weak. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to continue with this. And because you're going to have all these lessons broken down piece by piece without the internet issue. This is the live portion. And that's why I try to have things backed up like 2 to 3 different ways all the time. So this is what we're doing. I can always play it again. Basically, now we're choosing our colors. We're going to do a wet into wet application, just like we did in those pads there. And I saw that, I think it was Deb that ended up losing her flowers. That's okay. Just make it at a different time of year. So don't worry about it. The flowers aren't blooming. That's going to be fine. So we're going to just wet the inside of the flowers. And even if you remember that little exercise that I did in the very beginning on that crummy paper with those just circles, I wet the inside. Even with this, I have little white areas showing through. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to wet everything right up to the pencil line. Keep it loose. Also notice the reflection, if you can see it, on the bottom area in that yellow. That shows the amount of water that I have. Here you can also see the amount of water if you look at the reflection of the water on the surface. And I'm dropping the color in. I'm not being careful about that center. I'm keeping it very loose. I mean, we can always be more tight, but there is no way we could do this project being tight during our time together. So we're allowing the color to mingle into the water, and I'm dropping in that yellow. Like, I would have liked that yellow to maybe be a little brighter, but it really doesn't matter. It's the idea. Okay, so notice the amount of water. If you look at the bottom where that brush is, go to the bottom where you see that big shine. That is a puddle of water. So you want to maybe play with that. If you don't have a puddle, or if it's a dull sheen, you may, or even if it's just dull, then you don't have enough water on your surface. If you like it the way it is, that's fine. But I know that this is where we're having an issue with, well, not an issue, but where you need to learn about the amount of water on your paper surface. So if we look at the flower, the big flower on the left, you'll notice on the bottom of those petals, there's a big puddle, a big shine. If we look a little higher up that same petal, it has more of a duller shine. Okay, we're just going to do that to all of the flowers. Don't worry about it too much. Just fill in each one, even those little buds, get some water in there, drop in a little color so it looks kind of like this. Leave the centers dry. Don't even worry about it. So I'll play this again. I think that you'd probably benefit from me playing this again. And then you can paint along with it, but this is the idea. And does anybody have a question or a comment before I play it? Okay. Well, thank you everybody for letting me know about how your internet's reacting. So here we go. It's time to start thinking about the flowers. I have a quinacridone pink from Daniel Smith, and then I have a quinacridone magenta from Winsor & Newton. I think I'm going to go for the quinacridone pink. Let's go ahead and make a little puddle. That's a little too much. And my original thought was, oh, I can go ahead and put my shadows in and then put the petals in, but I'm going to go ahead and put these flowers in first. I'm going to get water in here and water here around my center. Then take my number 20. Let's see what happens. And the same thing over here. And just let it move in the water. Maybe I'll take a little bit of that Hansa yellow medium. I don't really want to turn it into an orange, but I think it might be fun to let it mingle directly on the paper. Okay, one thing I wanted you to notice here, what I'm doing is I'm using the 20 actually to apply color, but I'm using a half sheet. If you're using a quarter sheet, you may want to use a 14. And I have water on the surface, and I have enough water in my little water to color ratio in my little puddle there. I don't want it mixed. I want it to mingle. And don't worry about the little stamens. We're going to make them happen. And then touch the edges. Okay, we'll start with that. Then move over here. Go along the top, I'm going to stop it here for just a second. If you noticed, like the stamens will happen later, but what I also started to do right here is I'm doing a little negative painting in the center of this flower, so it helps give the impression of the stamens. Keep an eye on this. Just a little bit like that, and then I pretty much got rid of them, but that's a general idea. Go along the top, along the pencil line. I'm not worried about each individual petal. Let's see what develops. I think that's kind of interesting how that's escaping down here. I've got quite a bit of water. Get a little bit of yellow in here. That yellow is going pretty orange. This is escaping. I'm going to go ahead and try to lift a little bit of that out. Then I'll continue over here, getting the water inside my flower. And just letting the water carry the color. Let's go up into that big flower. Now, if it's important for you to paint each individual petal, you can. But I like the feel of this. I like how free this is. And I'm deciding if I wanted to come into these here. I'll give those a minute. And I don't want to fill everything in. I want to keep it kind of loose. I think this is going to be more controlled up here, and that's not necessarily what I want. I'm going to see what happens. Let's go ahead and get water in here, right through there, right up here. Working my way down. I'm not going to worry about the stamens, so I'm just going to do a little negative painting around them. Now we're going to let that dry and go back to these other buds. Just going to get water right in here. Just a little bit here and there. Using my number 20 blend brush. I could use my 14. Now I think what I'd like to do is let that naturally dry to a point, and then once it feels like it's found its place, then I can go ahead and finish the drying process with a hairdryer. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and then I think I'm going to come up into the mountains. Okay, so I'm going to let you do this for a minute, and when you have gotten some color in there, like just say that you're done. And maybe I'll set the timer for 10 minutes just in case. And if you notice the flower, I left lots of little white spaces around the edges. I was not being careful. It's okay if it escapes. We're keeping it loose because there's no way that we could get a super realistic painting within this period. Oh, look at Kelly. Look at you, Speedy. It's so great. Well, Kelly, since you're done, I'm going to go ahead and find you and see how's it going for you. Let's go ahead. I'm going to ask you, you can unmute yourself if you'd like. How's it going for you?
Can you hear me?
I can.
It's going okay. I've taken a lot of liberties with this
Good.
to make it my own. And the flowers sort of look like yours and sort of look like whatever, just blobs, but I like it so far. I think, there's going to be some finessing in the end, but it's going fine.
So did you have as many flowers in there, or did you minimize it? Like, it would be wonderful even with, now it would be wonderful with less flowers too, so what did you do?
No, I used all the flowers.
Okay. How would you change it? I'm just curious. So do you have any thoughts how you would change this?
With respect to the flowers?
If you decided you wanted to change a composition or make it easier, is there any other thoughts that come to mind? You
I
don't need,
I might simplify and make like a more obvious bunch of flowers as the focal point.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Like I guess my eye is going from the left side to the right in a swoop.
mm-hmm.
And my one little flower that's sticking above, like about in the third, upper third or right part,
Mm-hmm.
I might dress him up a little, but then the flowers in the middle kind of draw me. So I might think we could probably blur out the two. There's three obvious in the middle, and then there's a couple right behind them, and I might make those less pronounced.
Well, I find that very interesting because I had lots of thoughts, even coming up with this composition. I thought, all right, so there was the reference photo, and do I want to make it look like the reference photo, or do I want to simplify it like we usually do? Because this is very different than what I often do. Having that many different flowers, there isn't really a focal point, so much like exactly what you were saying, but the idea of combining the mountains and the foreground and trying to pull that into an entire composition is the what I thought was interesting with this. So,
Yeah, and I changed my I'm trying to make my ground a little bit more kind of reddish purpley,
oh, nice. Okay.
um, because I feel like that'll maybe bring out complement the flowers a little bit too. It's
Hmm.
probably too reddish, but whatever.
Well, again, that was sort of my original thought too. Like I wanted to get those rocks in there, but then thinking, and the speed that people usually paint, that would be difficult for most people to do. So, but I love that idea of what you have. I love that, having that reddish brown color. That would be wonderful. So, that'd be interesting to think that it, like even now, if I wanted to come back in and try to tuck it in underneath there, maybe I'd consider that. That's
Like
interesting.
there's one petal, if you or not petal, but cactus leaf, if you will, underneath the three in the center that's kind of bent up, and then there's ground under it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to make that like a little more cupped, but I'm not successful at that. But that kind of also helps to, you know, differentiate. Oh, there's cactus leaves in there too, or whatever they're called.
I do love that idea. I think that would be a lot of fun to do. That would be great. Okay, well, let's see how you do. And you can always post it like within the class too, or within the workshop module. I think I have it under say hello. Maybe create a link underneath there or bring it to the workshop, or not the workshop, but the meeting room after. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great. And let's get rid of this. Okay. So thanks, Beth. You're done with this. Great. And Kelly's done with that. So we need a few more people done with the flowers so I can, oh, great. We're doing good. And I think I have that timer running, so let me go to that. Oh, I didn't. I never set it. Okay, great. I have a few people. Oh, look at you guys. Great. All right. Then let's continue on. And if you're not done, that's okay. Just take your time. Now we're going to come in and add the mountain shadows. I'm still letting everything dry, but I think I can begin to think about my shadows up here. Hopefully I'll like them. I'm not done with my flowers or my greens. Let this naturally dry and maybe create some blooms and transition. Then I'm going to come in with my Winsor Blue red shade. I think I'm going to take my burnt sienna. That looks about right. And then start thinking about where I want to apply my shadows. I'm going to switch to a number 14. Let's see if that's going to work for me. I think the color is fine. This brush might be too big. I might need to go to number 8. And I'm being a little impatient here. So maybe I need a bit more water. I'm changing the amount of pressure on the brush. I'm using my pencil line as my guide. And I don't need to soften edges, but I might soften a few of them. What I'm trying to do is not have too much water or too much color in there. I want that to be in the background, and I want to suggest that it's there without having to paint everything in. And this is part of what really drew me to this. I loved the idea of working with these shadows. And I want to put my hand on here, but it's too wet. I could turn my painting around, but I'd rather see where I want to go with this. Now you can be more careful than I am, but I need to establish some shapes. And just soften an edge. I think the general idea is on track. I need to step back a little bit so I could see it. But in general, this I think it's giving me what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. I think I'll go ahead and put a little road in here. Just suggest we have a trail in there and soften. Now for just a minute, I'm going to go ahead and let that all dry. Okay, so I'll play it again, but I'm going to break it down. So you can see there's nothing here. I'm using the pencil lines as just a suggestion and a guide, and we can always refer back to the reference photo. And I'm choosing the colors that I'm going to use. And I was using the Winsor Blue red shade that day. Usually I go for a French Ultramarine Blue Burnt Sienna blend, but I felt like using the Winsor Blue red shade. And I brought in a burnt sienna. I wanted more of a blue-gray blend, or if you have a different combination that you like, that's fine too. And basically what I'm going to be doing is playing with the amount of pressure on the brush, making a little puddle. It's not as watery because I want some color in here. If I go too watery, then I'm not going to have some contrast. And if we look at the reference photo, that was the other thing. If we look at the reference photo, that's another reason why I leaned more towards the Winsor Blue red shade. It doesn't mean the shadow color turned out that way. And I'm not trying to match the reference photo exactly. I'm using that as a guide. Okay, and then right there where I have those colors in above that flower, I'm using the very tip of my brush and just changing the amount of pressure on the brush to create it wide and thin, and then dissolving an edge here and there. Don't worry, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can always come back in and rework things if you want. And like this area right here, I have more water on there. And then playing with that brush stroke. I'm getting larger with the strokes as I move over to the left-hand side. And what's really important is that you step away from your painting so you can see it a little easier. If you're right on top of it, it's more challenging. Okay. So as I move over to the left-hand side, I have less of that underlying color showing through. But if we think about the way the valleys or the little, oh, I guess they're sort, well, it's not really a valley. What are they? The areas between the mountains, the crevices are at the same angle moving down the mountain ridge. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll play this again. I'm still letting everything dry, but I think I can begin to think about my shadows. The other thing is I would expect that you would be painting along at this time. Up here, hopefully I'll like them. I'm not done with my flowers or my greens. Let this naturally dry and maybe create some blooms and transition. Then I'm going to come in with my Winsor Blue red shade. I think I'm going to take my burnt sienna. That looks about right. And then start thinking about where I want to apply my shadows. I'm going to switch to a number 14. Let's see if that's going to work for me. I think the color is fine. This brush might be too big. I might need to go to a number 8. And I'm being a little impatient here. So maybe I need a bit more water. I'm changing the amount of pressure on the brush. I'm using my pencil line as my guide. And I don't need to soften edges, but I might soften a few of them. What I'm trying to do is not have too much water or too much color in there. I want that to be in the background, and I want to suggest that it's there without having to paint everything in. And this is part of what really drew me to this. I loved the idea of working with these shadows. And I want to put my hand on here, but it's too wet. I could turn my painting around, but I'd rather see where I want to go with this. Now you can be more careful than I am, but I need to establish some shapes. And just soften an edge. I think the general idea is on track. I need to step back a little bit so I could see it. But in general, this I think it's giving me what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. I think I'll go ahead and put a little road in here. Just suggest we have a trail in there and soften. Now for just a minute, I'm going to go ahead and let that all dry. Okay, so this is where we're going. And once you get your shadows in there, go ahead and let me know that you're done. And don't get fussy because I know that you'll want to. Try to avoid that. I'll set the timer. Oh, thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Oh, and Kelly's done great. Sandra, I'm going to find you and see if you'd like to say something. There you go. If you'd like to say something or ask a question or let me know what works for you, that helps.
I'm not painting, I'm watching, and I'm going to paint with recording, but I live in the Mojave Desert and I spent 2 months in the Sonoran Desert last spring. So when I saw this offering, I was so excited. It's just wonderful. And I love the close-up of the flowers, of the bloom, the cactus blooms. that you don't usually see that kind of a landscape where the focus is on those cactus blooms so large.
Thank you. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking because I've done an orange cactus, and actually I could show that to you too. I think we have that in our upcoming 6-week course, I think. And I'll take a look at that. But there, the focus was the flower, and here we have both the landscape and I love those. I love those mountains, in general, all those mountains in the desert.
I love the shadows. I think they
Yes.
just look so natural. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Oh, you're going to have a lot of fun with this. And do
Yes,
you?
I know. I can feel it.
Oh, yay, yay. Are you painting today, later on?
No, I'm not, because I just miss too much when I'm painting. I want to hear every word and I want to see every brush stroke you're doing, and then I do it with the recording.
But are you going to start today? Are you going to paint tomorrow? Or when are you going to start it?
Sometime this week.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, well, that's exciting. In fact, I'm going to see if I can find that other workshop, or it's not a workshop, it's a 6-week, which I wasn't even thinking about a minute ago, but I just wanted you to see what we usually do. And I have to do a little finagling back here. And how long have you been painting?
Dabbling off and on since I retired 13 years ago.
How fantastic. Okay, so what I was just looking at, and I usually put that one in here and I didn't. So I'm curious. I'm gonna I was gonna change. So I usually put that orange cactus in here, but I didn't. Huh. Okay, I'm gonna pull up something else and then I'll share that with you in a second. So before I change my windows, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm gonna get a new tab and then I'll get this. My mind has gone blank. See if I can go there, because you just made me think about it when we're talking about the flowers, and you inspired an idea. Which I was not thinking about. Well, this is going to be a little strange, I guess, to show you, but I'm going to go ahead and show this to you. And there's a couple things. I'll show you this first. Okay, usually what I have in this upcoming 6-week class, I usually have an orange cactus flower, but I kept that same theme of color through here. So I'm going to show you something else. So people that have, oops, oh no, I have disappeared. Let's go here. There we go. And I'll show you this one. Let me get through there. There we go. Okay, so that was not what I wanted to show you. This right here. Okay, you see this cactus flower right here? That's usually what I end up doing, something close like that. And I've done this before. And it's been around for a long time. And I used to do that in in-person workshops, and also it was in a 6-week series. But maybe I'd consider, or maybe I'll create a new cactus flower for that. Okay, so we don't have, let's go back to the chat and take a look and how's everybody doing with their shadows, and I'll go ahead and pull that one back up. Not that. Sorry. Let's go here. I'm going to go back into the shadows right there so you can see. And when you're done with this, let me know and we will move on into some of the details. How are you doing, Sue? How are you doing with this?
I've been particularly quiet today, haven't I?
Well, hopefully you're painting.
Well, I am, and I'm working on my mountains and
Good.
shadows. So I'm kind of where I need to be. So doing all right.
Good, good. I'm happy that you're painting. So,
Yeah.
and changing the amount. So hopefully people are recognizing that they have to change the amount of pressure on the brush. You work with a different water to color ratio to get the color intensity that you want. And this will add depth into the painting. So we have a few people that are done. And we're going to wait for a few more and then we'll move into some of the details. Okay, great. Excellent. Wonderful. Okay, thanks, Sue. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue. And we are going to go into general details. Now, I like the general idea, but I don't want this to compete with my flowers. I want my flowers to pull forward. And I could add other bushes back here, but I think I'm going to use what I have here and incorporate that into the background and do a little glazing. I want to pull those forward. So hopefully this will work. I think I'll turn this around so I can access this a little easier. I'll just paint around it. Soften some of those hard lines. Let's go ahead and give it a try. What I'm thinking about is how can I push this back? So then we have our landscape pushes back a little bit. This could use something to make it more interesting back here. I wonder if I came in with some green, would that make it more interesting? Maybe yes, maybe no. And I don't want as much space, but I really didn't want a lot of bushes back there. Let's let that run. Now, I think I'm going to come back into the flowers. You can see the surrounding color is pretty wet. Use my permanent quinacridone pink. And I'm going to allow some of that to stay wet. I'm trying to decide, do I want to soften that right now, or what do I want to do with that? Do I want to go, I think I'll take a little bit of my quinacridone magenta and my quinacridone pink. Let's see if I can get a bit more color in here. I'm going to take the number 14, try to take advantage of some of the lines, and then maybe soften just a few of those edges. Have more of that quinacridone pink. I want to take advantage of some of these pencil lines. That's what I'm thinking. and just touch a few of those edges. We can always come back in and do more. I think I like the quinacridone pink more than I like the quinacridone magenta for this. You can take your time with this. And it's going to be however you see it. Of course, I could be more detailed, but this is a lot more fun. It's really easy to overdo it, so that's what I'm trying to avoid, hopefully. But I do want to give this structure. This is a wonderful combination between the loose painting and the florals plus the landscape. So it's wet on dry and softening an edge. Tiny bit in the center maybe, taking advantage of the wet surface. I'm using a combination of wet on dry and wet on wet. I'm going a little bit darker towards the inside of the flower and then allowing the color to escape and crawl. Now I have a lot of white around the edges and I don't really want to fill it in, but what if I just touch some of those white spots to tone them down a tiny bit? Just a few. And I'm going to come into the center with my Hansa Yellow Medium. And I would think the surrounding color should move into it to tone it down so it's not going to be so bright, but I think that would be nice. Now when it's dry, I could consider coming in with a smaller brush, but I like the combination of loose and having some detail here. I think, do I want to go any darker in some areas? Do I want to push areas back? I think this is kind of nice as is. Maybe a tiny bit more here. Do I want to add any detail? Let's see. I don't know. I really don't want to overdo this. And I want to keep some of my light color here. It'd be nice to go darker, but I think I like it. So what I think it needs now is that I need to remove the masking, add a bit more detail in the flowers, maybe even come back up here. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and step away from it and let it dry. Okay, so now we're at the spot where we have all these multiple points where you can stop the painting. It's whatever you like. Because I did like the mountain where it had a crisper line, but I did want to push it back. So, you know, those might be things that you might be thinking about. And if I push it back by going over that with clean water, it'll soften the lines. I also liked the valley floor being a little lighter, but I didn't know if I'd like it or not. And I was thinking about the reference photo. So I went green, and I'm not done there yet. And then inside the flower, you could always analyze the reference photo and try to be more detailed, but this way I was able to get the concept of the flowers without having to be so photorealistic. Let's go ahead and take another look at this. And this is what it looked like before. I liked it then. So you could actually kind of stop at this stage if you wanted to. If you like your background shadows and if you like your flowers, you may or may not want to come back in and add a lot more color, or you may just define your petals and remove your masking. You have that option. You can add the greens behind the flowers if you want. So this is a very, I think, a valuable point too, is that you really look at what do you like? You know, what do you want to maybe consider? And if you want to push those mountains back, you're going to go over them again. This is the green in the background. And then we start adding color to the petals. So if you're at a spot that you're not quite sure, or you think, oh, I just love my painting the way it is, then you may want to stop for a minute and then take your time later. Or if you think, hey, you know, I'm just going to go for it, then go for it. So I'll play this again, and we're just getting a little detail in here. So you can see the difference between not a lot of color, that's one layer in the flowers. And before I play it again, let's look at, where is this? There. That has more color in the flowers. So here. Now I like the general idea, but I don't want this to compete with my flowers. I want my flowers to pull forward. And I could add other bushes back here, but I think I'm going to use what I have here and incorporate that into the background and do a little glazing. I want to pull those forward. So hopefully this will work. I think I'll turn this around so I can access this a little easier. I'll just paint around it. Soften some of those hard lines. Let's go ahead and give it a try. What I'm thinking about is how can I push this back? So then we have our landscape pushes back a little bit. This could use something to make it more interesting back here. I wonder if I came in with some green, would that make it more interesting? Maybe yes, maybe no. And I don't want as much space, but I really didn't want a lot of bushes back there. Let's let that run. Now, I think I'm going to come back into the flowers. You can see the surrounding color is pretty wet. Use my permanent quinacridone pink. And I'm going to allow some of that to stay wet. I'm trying to decide, do I want to soften that right now, or what do I want to do with that? Do I want to go, I think I'll take a little bit of my quinacridone magenta and my quinacridone pink. Let's see if I can get a bit more color in here. I'm going to take the number 14, try to take advantage of some of the lines, and then maybe soften just a few of those edges. Have more of that quinacridone pink. I want to take advantage of some of these pencil lines. That's what I'm thinking. And just touch a few of those edges. We can always come back in and do more. I think I like the quinacridone pink more than I like the quinacridone magenta for this. You can take your time with this. And it's going to be however you see it. Of course, I could be more detailed, but this is a lot more fun. It's really easy to overdo it, so that's what I'm trying to avoid, hopefully. But I do want to give this structure. This is a wonderful combination between the loose painting and the florals plus the landscape. So it's wet on dry and softening an edge. Tiny bit in the center maybe, taking advantage of the wet surface. I'm using a combination of wet on dry and wet on wet. I'm going a little bit darker towards the inside of the flower and then allowing the color to escape and crawl. Now I have a lot of white around the edges and I don't really want to fill it in, but what if I just touch some of those white spots to tone them down a tiny bit? Just a few. And I'm going to come into the center with my Hansa Yellow Medium. And I would think the surrounding color should move into it to tone it down so it's not going to be so bright, but I think that would be nice. Now when it's dry, I could consider coming in with a smaller brush, but I like the combination of loose and having some detail here. Do I want to go any darker in some areas? Do I want to push areas back? I think this is kind of nice as is. Maybe a tiny bit more here. Do I want to add any detail? Let's see. I don't know. I really don't want to overdo this. And I want to keep some of my light color here. It'd be nice to go darker, but I think I like it. So what I think it needs now is that I need to remove the masking, add a bit more detail in the flowers, maybe even come back up here. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and step away from it and let it dry. Okay, so I have a lot more that I'm going to do to this, but if you can get it to this stage, I think that's very successful. And if you are already at this stage, go ahead and remove your masking. And I mean, unless you want to fuss around with it and get more detailed, but that's my plan. And when I see that some of you are done or ready to move on, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll set the timer for 10 minutes here. But now I think we're getting into the fine tuning. Let me take a look at where I'm at and whether or not you want to push it. So, yeah. I think we're doing just fine. Next, I'm going to add more depth, and then I'll do a push and pull and the final details. So before I move on, I'm going to give you time to paint, and if you have any questions, let me know. And I'm going to check something within our workshop module. And I think for those that I've already unmuted or, allowed to mute, you might be able to unmute yourself again if you'd like to say anything or have a suggestion. Ooh, it completely knocked me out of here. Thank you, Gay. Are you still here? You can go ahead and unmute yourself, I think. I'm going to see if Gay is still here. I think she's gone now. Okay, great. And then Marion, let me find you. Okay, if you'd like, you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi,
Hi, how are you doing?
good.
Good. So what do you think?
I chose this because I've done a lot of close-up flowers with mountains in the back before, and I'm like, this is right down my alley. So I've had a little trouble with water control, but I really like what you're teaching, so that's cool.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's been fun.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. So when you're having an issue with your water control, do you usually paint loose or do you paint more dry? What do you do?
I paint loose.
Oh, you do. Are
Yeah.
you down there in the desert then?
No, I'm in Benicia. I'm not too far from
Oh
you.
my gosh, you're just like, hello.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. And so do you do a lot of, so you don't do a lot of desert scenes, you do more of the local scenes with the flowers and
I just do whatever I feel like doing. So
that's the best. That's
yeah, I like to do flowers. I like to do landscapes, but I always like to have flowers in my landscapes.
you know, I haven't really pulled the two together this way,
Uh-huh.
and I do like the perspective of it.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you. So, and what paper do you usually use?
I'm using 140, but I just recently painted on 300 for the first time. It came out great. I don't know if I can ever go back. So
It's hard. It's
yeah.
hard to go back. It's just such a difference.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea it would be so great.
So did you find out that it was much more dynamic?
It just was, it just made the brushes do better things somehow. I don't know exactly how to say it, but it just made everything look so beautiful.
It's interesting. Well, like doing this is on 140, and I
Yeah.
think this works just fine for what we're doing.
Yeah.
But, working on the 300, it's like you get more impact with it.
Yeah.
So, like even when I think about my other florals, like any of my florals here, being on 140 is great if you want to be really more representational, I think, because it's good for wet on dry. I mean, you can do the looser stuff too, but to really get the depth, the
Uh-huh.
300, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so what kind of brushes do you usually use?
Well, I'm using sort of medium size brushes, and I use daggers a lot. I like the dagger feel.
Yes.
I don't have any good brushes. I've only been painting for a couple of years, and I haven't invested in really good brushes, but I'm going to get there. And I've started painting bigger.
Nice.
So I'm learning how the brushes work bigger. So I'm playing with that too.
So like even with those giant paintings that I have, basically working with a 30, a 20, and a 14, and an 8 for finer details work really well. So it doesn't matter big or small, you can do that. So when I remember thinking, okay, I'm gonna get a Kolinsky. And when I got a Kolinsky, I could not paint with that because it was too flat. I pressed too hard and it would it create a weird little curve, it just didn't release. I didn't know how to release the water from it. And so, yeah, just change the amount of pressure on. So you don't necessarily need a Kolinsky, but yes, different brushes really make a difference. And I like the Winsor & Newton Scepter Gold series. That's a good one too. I like the squirrel brushes. There's so much. Yeah. Well, thank you, Marion.
Yes, this has been fun, and I'm okay with what I've done, but I might do another one just to see now that I've learned some stuff. I'd like to practice. So
I think it'd be really worth it to do that, do it again. And
yeah.
You know, I like looking at this too. I might even consider that. That would be,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. And I see Sue has her hand up. So, hey, Sue, what's going on?
I just wanted to give Marion permission, if she needs it, to go ahead and invest in her education in watercolor, because obviously, because of her discovery of the 300 pound, go ahead and get those good brushes and you'll be amazed.
True.
Yeah.
It is absolutely, if I had to put down the two most exponential changes that Birgit made in one course,
Uh-huh.
paper and brushes. I turned a huge corner because I never could figure out why I couldn't layer color. I would always lift it up. And I couldn't ever get the effects that I thought I needed to be getting. And lo, don't you know, it was the paper and the brushes. It was magic.
And then when you try different papers, like if you're used to arches and then you try, like,
Ooh,
yeah, there's a huge difference.
like today.
Well, you know, I'm going to, before I continue here, I'm going to close this. I think that gives everybody enough for right now. But what happened was, like, when I was trying to paint larger like this, I was painting small little landscapes, and then I went larger and into a full sheet and using tiny brushes. And then I wanted to expand. And then I went into a single elephant, which is 25 by 40, and then a double elephant, which is 30 by 40, and then that's a 40 by 60 right there, and doing two of them is that's a diptych, and that is like 60 by 80. And I couldn't find paper that big, so I was using a Fabriano paper, and I couldn't understand why I had so many blooms and why couldn't I get the depth that I wanted. Even now with I love Fabriano, but it doesn't always. I love all the papers for different things. And, you know, to get that intensity, like this is 300-pound paper, that Arches paper, which you could, that's single sheets. It's not a roll.
Right.
You don't find that often anymore. But anyway, okay, I'm going to continue here. So you just got me on that roll there. Well, thank you, Marion.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that we're ready to move on. Is there anybody that's wants me to stop and wait for a minute? Or Beth has the masking off. And Beth, how are you doing? Let me find you in general here. Let's go. And just in case you can't, I don't know if you can unmute yourself again.
I can talk.
Yeah, you can talk. So how are you doing? What do you think?
Very good, very good. Again, it's going so well, Birgit. You've got it set up perfectly again, and I'm really enjoying it. I took the masking off. I've got little dots everywhere.
So now with the masking off, does it look, because it's going to look a little flat, but now you've got the needles on there.
Yeah, my needles are more like swords.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to work on that.
Great. Otherwise, great.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, then let's continue. And thank you for the comment about, you know, we've done a lot of these and we try to have that pace going that really works. And so far, so good. And all right, so now we're going to add, let's see, some depth. I don't think we did this one yet. There we go. Now looking at the direction of where I'm at, I thought it looked fine. I put it up and I stepped away, and then I thought it looked really weak. So right now, what I could say is I could call this good, keep it light and airy, but for my satisfaction, I need to have more depth in the painting. So what that means is that I might come back in and find some of my pencil lines and create a bit more depth, and I need some darker values. I want to look at my painting, and then I want to decide what it needs to have done. I look at these areas here, and I would like to add a bit more depth inside the flower, but I don't really want to overdo it or have that be my primary focus. The overall composition is what I'm thinking about. For some reason, I feel very loose with this painting. My intention when I walked away and came back was I was going to tighten up, but I don't really want to do that. So let's see. Create a few little lines here. Let's see what ends up developing. Just wanted to break that up a little bit. Remember, we're using the reference photo as a guide, and then where can we go and step away from what we actually see? This would have been nice if it was a little smaller, but it's okay. And I'm also thinking, what if I wanted to get a bit of texture back there? You can see I'm making quite the mess. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to add a little bit of blue. The red has stained my table. Tap off the extra water. I'm going to hold the brush more horizontally. I'm going to think about my valley floor. I don't want a lot of water on here. And see if I can create a little texture. I'm looking for that right back here. And the two main elements that I really loved about this composition was the flowers in the foreground and the cactus and our landscape in the distance. Now I'm curious, what would happen if I do like my French ultramarine blue. I'm going to see, do I like that? Do I want to use that? Maybe something like that. Hopefully this is dry enough. Where am I going to go? I'm just going to dive in. I have a pencil line right up here, so I'm going to go ahead and try to work with that. I'm going to skip my brush around a little bit, try to use the amount of pressure on the brush and try to change that up here and there. So basically what I'm doing is using that underline layer as a guide. So we have 3 tones here. Let's go maybe right along this ridge. Play with the amount of pressure on the brush. I like that this makes it look more complex. Then moving my way across, we have this big shadow over here. We have some areas coming up into this area. I'm looking for my giant shadows first. I know that this is large right through here. So I'm just thinking of shapes and changing the amount of pressure on my brush. And I know that feels dark, and it is darker, but I also know that it is going to dry lighter. Maybe a little more water right up here. And I'm asking myself, should I change any of the shapes here? Maybe if I just add a bit more water, it's naturally going to change somehow. So I'll do that and see what happens. Just soften a few of these. I could be more accurate, but I'm actually moving pretty quickly through this. I want my flowers to stand out a bit more. Maybe what I'll do is think of separating those petals a little bit. I think I'll take that number 20. And touch a few edges. And just soften a few. So I'm just gently trying to go through these flowers here and there. We'll see what happens once that dries. Same thing down here. I'm going to try to separate some of these petals. So right now we're kind of sculpting. Basically repeating the same thing that I just did, but looking more for my pencil lines. Now you don't have to do all of this. This is just what I found I needed to do because I wasn't satisfied. Remember when I looked at the overall painting, I thought that it was just too mid-tone, too light. It needed more. Remember, you can always refer back to your reference photo. Now, every step of the way, I really like it. And there comes a point where I don't really want to change it, but I'm not satisfied with that. And I'm going to keep working with it until I do feel satisfied. Okay, let's take a look. I'm debating if I wanted to put a complementary color down here for the shadows, or do I want to make it dramatic? What do I want to do? I think I do love this down here, but I don't think it is done. What would happen if I take my quinacridone magenta, mix it in with my green, and try to work with some of those darker values. Now, I usually like to push it a little differently, but I think I wanted to pull some of that color down here. Maybe I'll take a little bit of the French ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna just because it is my go-to. Throw a little bit of that in there, here and there. I think I'll pull a little bit up into the flowers too. So every step of the way, there are areas that I love and I don't want to change. But if it doesn't work with the painting, that's when I need to reconsider and make those changes. And I could use the smaller brush, but I don't want to get caught up in detail. I think I'm going to use a little piece of paper like this. I just don't want to get rid of my beautiful greens in here, so I'm going to think about that for just a second. Trying to get this a little more neutral. Think about where do I want to go. Maybe shape that a little bit. I'm coming in with blue. Just because I don't want it to be dark and then very light. These are in shadows. Can I use some of that? little bit of that blue. And if that blue is too strong, you can try to lift a little bit of that out. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry. I do like some of the things that are happening, and maybe what I'll do is try to just add a few little details here. Okay, now let's go ahead and let that dry, and then we'll remove the masking. So I didn't remove the masking quite yet, as you can see. Don't worry if you did, because even though you paint over areas, we can always lift that out again. What I'm thinking about, because this all takes time, I would rather you kind of see the whole process to the end and then work at your own pace instead of trying to jump into this. This is what I'm thinking right now. Let me see where we're at on our lessons, and especially also with the time that we have. I think that we're doing the push and pull right here. And Sue, what do you think? I think we have one or two more. I think we just have one more. But
A vote for watching it through the end and then deciding what we do from there.
yeah. And I'm also thinking then we could also go into the room after that where we can see what you've done.
Right.
And yeah, so let's see. I think because it doesn't show me the file that I'm looking at, which is always fun. And let me see. I'm going to actually just play this one again and see if this is where we're at. I get so excited. And I don't want people to just jump in and then turn it into one big muddy mess. So that's what I'm thinking about. Oh, okay. So this one, the masking is off. So hold on for a second. Then we have two more at least. Okay. I'm going to go back one step to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Like you said, most of them are relatively short.
Yeah. So we already went ahead and I went darker right in here. Okay, so here we go. I put this up and oops. There we go. I put this up and I stepped back and I really liked what I had, but I thought, what would happen if I add a little more color? Because what I saw is when I mixed these shadows up here and I combined my magenta with my green, it's fine, it's warm, but it isn't something that I necessarily want. So what if I take my permanent sap green, I'd like it to be a little cooler. What if I take my Hansa yellow, bring that in here? I would just like a little more green in here. So I'm going to wiggle my way down. Touch a few edges. Now looking at the painting, I'm very pleased with what's happening. I want to lift a little bit of this color out here. Maybe I will expand this. I thought about creating more contrast in that area, but I'll hold off there. And even though I love this area down here, I want to pull these flowers forward more. And in order to do that, I need to work with my darker values. So I think what I'm going to do here, I'm going to lift a little bit of this color out right here. I don't want to overdo it. Let's lift a little color out there. I think that's kind of nice. I'm I'm going to take my number 20 blend brush and I'm going to come in with a little indigo. I'm going to try to push this a little further. I liked how light this was. I'm going to take advantage of some shapes here. Can I go ahead and push this? In the original reference photo, it's dark, but I was trying to avoid that. I think maybe I'll even go around this. I could reshape this, but again, I'm not taking that much time. So my main goal is trying to get these flowers to pull away from the background. And I'm thinking of doing something really bold, and I might not like it at all. But, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a wash brush and right here, I'm taking two blues, mixing it in. I loved my lights in here, but I'm going to push it. And I'm going to glaze right over all of this. Then take my number 30 and soften this edge. So it's doing a couple things. It's pushing those needles back. We know that they're there. And it's not pulling as much attention to it. Any of these other areas that I might want to lighten, I can just try to lift a little water out. That should be just fine. I think that works actually very nicely. Again, I don't want to lose my lights, but it's not giving me the effect that I'm looking for in my painting. So this is why I'm doing it. Now I like what's happening. I think that's fine. I could come back in. I could add more into the flowers. Do I want to? I don't need to, but I can also come back in here. I have a feeling this is what I want to do. I'm going to take a flat brush, add a little more color in there. We'll see what happens once that dries. Go this way and access this. And over here too, let's get some color in. And I'm thinking about coming back into my mountains. I'm going to take the Winsor Blue red shade and the cobalt blue. And I'm going to try something. This is with the number 20. I could use my smaller brush. I could always be more detailed. Now what I'm thinking about is once that dries, that should lay on top of the previous layer very nicely. I might consider softening just a few of these lines so they don't look so chunky. Now let's step back and take a look. Okay, so it was interesting that our Zoom user there, okay, so was wondering, why didn't I start with the flowers? Why did I go to the background? And you can do it either way. You can start with your flowers or start with the background. And usually when I do my other floral paintings, I'm gonna come back to this here in just a second, and I think I'll close this file for a minute. So you can do it either way because it really depends, where do you want your focus? And like, for instance, okay, like this is another one that'll be coming up too, and this is a white flower. I'm working on the flower itself, We don't have a background, but I made strategic choices on what I wanted with that. I was going to add more to the background and I didn't want to. With what we're doing right now, I thought if we did the flowers, then that's what you're really going to focus on. You're going to have a tendency to really get wrapped up into all of those details. And I wanted to avoid that. I'm going to go back to the picture here so we can take a look at it. But both ways will work fine. You know, it's really going to be your personal choice. And what's interesting about this too, like I also thought, well, what would have happened if I did it on the 300-pound paper? I could have worked it a little bit more. And let's get back down here. I do like going over it with the blue. I thought that worked out nicely. And what I can't help but think of is not only just keeping it a light, pretty watercolor, I'm trying to get more depth in there. That's what I'm more fascinated with. And that's why I'm making these choices. Now, you do not have to do all of this. Take it to a point that you like it, put your painting up, and step back and see what you think, if you like it. And here I have very dark shadows now. I also liked it when it was very light. I also liked it when I didn't add the color between, you know, that green color between the flowers, because then I could see the flowers more. But I can't go backwards so much with what I have here. So if I wanted to keep it really light and fresh, maybe I would have stopped and not pushed it. But I also like this because then it's starting to be a bit more dramatic. So that's why we put our painting up. We step away from it, walk out of the room, go do something else and come back. And then intuitively, you're going to find what feels good to you and what do you like? What are you attracted to? So now this is where we're at, and I'm going to take it into the final stage of where I went with this. Now, I don't expect you to be painting and keeping up with me. You can always paint along at your own pace later at this point. But I want you to have an idea of what I'm thinking because there's something that's gnawing away at me. And until that's gone, I will continue to look at the painting and work with it. So here we go. There we go. Now I went ahead and stepped away from the painting for a while, and I think this works nicely as is. I think I'm going to lift some of this color out. I'm just going to stop for a second because why I would consider like going back and forth is once I put the painting up and step away, I'm thinking, does the background compete with the flowers? Is it on the same plane? Do I have the depth that I want? Do I want to soften those edges of the mountains? Do I want them crisp? So that's why I'm making these decisions. Lighten that up a little bit. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put this at a slight tilt. Want to lighten that a little bit. Now you don't have to do any of this. I just want to push some areas back. I'm rotating this as I go. I want to lighten. I wanted to lighten the color a little. And I wanted to soften some of those edges. So that's why I did this. I think I like that. I like that blurred effect back there. And I think I'm going to try to get a little more of a lift on this. Let's see what happens. The color is going to run down. This is all dry. But I thought I might like to get a bit more green into that. Green. I like how soft that is. We'll see how that develops. I like that that gives the impression of distance. Let's go back into my Hunts Yellow medium and see where I can maybe add a bit more of the brighter greens. I don't want to do too much. I just wanted to perk it up a little bit. I thought some of those darks, I thought I went a little too dark pretty quickly here. I have an idea. Let's get more of these yellow greens back in here and there. But I'm just going to use this low tack painter's tape. And I'm going to see what would happen if I go ahead and find some of these spines. Just like that. Take my magic eraser, remove the extra water. If we have lost some of them, we can do it. It doesn't have to be dramatic, but this just shows you if you need to, you can get them back. And if you want to, just take your time and do a little bit more. Now you can continue to do as much as you like to it, but for now, I think I'm going to call that done. Step back and evaluate. Ta-da! Okay, so you get the idea. I mean, it really depends. If you want to keep it light and fresh, like I said, you can stop. If you want more depth, this is how you would push it. And I also just put in the chat that we are going to go into a meeting room in just a moment. And I know that some of you will not go with us, but you are all welcome to join us there. I put the link right there. It's the same one that you used to get into this room, but that way we can see each other and you can hold your painting up. Or if you can't make it there and you want to say something, please put it in the chat or put your hand up and I can unmute you because I'd like to be able to talk to you about your experience. Does anybody have a comment or a question or a thought? Or Sue, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Just when we make the transition from here to the regular Zoom room, not the webinar room, is that you give Birgit about 3 to 4 minutes to make the shift. There's some settings she has to change on her end so that we can join her. And when you go into that room, it'll look like you're just joining the webinar again, but you're not. You know, she will bring us in to that Zoom room when she's got everything set up, and we'll just be in the waiting room.
Thank you. Thank you. But because I know not everybody's going to join us there. So for anybody that's here right now, I'm wondering, what do you think about this? You know, you can put it in the chat. Did you like it the way it was? Do you like that it has more depth? Does it inspire you? Is there anything that that you just let me know what you think? Because then I have a better idea what helps you. And here everybody's quiet. Or you need to have a moment to type. So Sue, what did you think about? Oh, Georgia. Let's go, Sue, and then we'll talk to Georgia. So Sue, what did you think about all of this?
Well, I survived. You know, sometimes I have trouble with the format because I'm a very slow painter, and I've learned to accept that and to do what I can do. And this pace was perfect for doing this particular project. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I also thought it was very interesting. Like, yes, we could have, I really did find that interesting. Yes, we could have approached it with the flowers first, but then we would get tighter. And then to think about the time frame that we have, you know, this is like what we accomplished. We did an amazing job within that 4-hour period. And Georgia, you had a thought too.
I loved it. I love what you're doing, and I love this workshop because one, I was able to sort of, you know, keep up, and it was a relaxing workshop.
Oh,
it didn't make my brain hurt.
Yeah, we've had some of those. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But putting that extra depth in there, I think that really brings it right off the page.
Thank you. Well, it's so interesting too, because a lot of times people will have the light medium, they may have medium, light, medium, and dark values, but there's still a range of medium to darker mid-range values that we may want to add. That I want to add them, but I see so many paintings that look flat. You know, you'll have the dark, let's say shoes or something like that, and then the rest of the body or whatever it is, or the flower, you know, you have your shadows, and then you have everything's too light. We're missing it. We don't have the depth. So yeah, but it doesn't mean everybody's attracted to it. I think it adds something more intriguing to the painting. So, okay, everybody. And Georgia, do you have anything to add? Anything else to add to this, or anybody else that has been unmuted during this time? And then we'll move over into the other room.
I don't, but I do need to add, I will add the darker darks because right now it looks pretty flat.
Okay, so you see that then in your painting.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay, that'll be interesting. And so in the other room, people can hold their painting up and we can go out in there. And Deborah had something. I'm going to go ahead and ask Deborah to unmute herself. So let me go to. It's been a while, Deborah. How are you doing?
I am doing okie doke.
Good, good.
I haven't been painting for a while. I know not everyone knows, but I lost my husband and kind of that slowed my artwork down quite a bit. But anything, one comment, and I always love your workshops, Birgit. But the one thing that I have found is that if I just use your drawing that you provide with it for us, which is awesome, I tend to get lost in the drawing. And I don't know if, but if I take the reference photo and make my own drawing, then I don't tend to get as lost. And I don't know if that's because I'm becoming more familiar with it as I'm doing the drawing or what exactly it is. But I was just wondering if anyone else has that experience.
There are a lot of people that have that experience. And see, when I see something, I am always looking at it as shapes, not so much of the reference photo. Our logical mind, our analytical mind is looking at what we see and needs to make sense of it. I don't necessarily need to make sense of it. I'm going to look at blocks, just like we broke this down, sky and then bottom and then flowers, you know, our sky, bottom, mountains and flowers. Those are big shapes that we're working on. So, but yes, that happens a lot, but not everybody can draw. So that's why you know, really, you're always welcome to freehand it. That would be very interesting. So,
Yeah, I do like to do that too, but usually I don't know. I think it's a way that my brain works to become familiar, even if they are just shapes. But I probably, to improve my style, need to loosen up and look more at the shapes. Because I just painted green right over the flowers and I'm like, oh, whoops, that was a flower.
Well, I think if you look at the video at that section, because it will be in sections, you'll see I left those areas dry. And I'm sure you're
Yeah,
not the only one that did that. I am sure of that.
yeah.
And uh and then like Tammy just said that she needs to do her own sketch now. And that because now you have the technique. Now you can go into your zone and do your own painting.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be really good.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I'm going to go ahead. I want to unmute Julie if she wants to talk, because I think that Julie had. Okay, Julie, if you'd like to say something, you can. I know that you had an interesting comment. Let me find it again. And so, Julie, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hi.
I'm like sitting here scared to death because
Oh,
I'm really new. So I worked through this and I am very excited. I've always wanted to paint, and now I'm just jumping in. And
excellent.
it's a good exercise for me. I'm embracing watercolors because it just helps you to learn how to let go.
Yeah.
And I'm having to do that. So it's really, really good for me.
Well, I think you have a great approach to it, and I'm really glad that you're here and then diving into it because we don't know what we're doing, and then we're going to get too tight in the very beginning. So that's you're in the right spot at the right moment. Excellent.
I'm excited. I'm just so excited. I want to do this again. So I'm excited that we can go back again and again.
Absolutely.
So
I'll be sending you a recording along with all the other details after we break, after we're done with everything.
thank you. What made me feel really good is when at some point you were saying, "Oh, I don't know what I want to do next. Do I want to do this? I'm not sure." And I have thought, thank you, because that's how I feel all along. I'm just like, I feel like I have to really develop my eye to really see what I have on the paper,
Well,
because
you
it's hard
leave
for
the
me
room,
to see.
leave the room and come back and you'll be able to see it
Mm-hmm.
because when
Exactly.
you're right on top of it, you can't see it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well,
So thank you so much.
thank you. And then Sue, you had a comment?
Yes, I have two.
Okay.
One addresses the line drawing. And I noticed when I looked at the line drawing for this project, I said, man, I don't need all those details. I can't believe Birgit draws all those details in. But what helps me is to take the drawing that you give us and mark with a Sharpie the major shapes, the ones that are critical. And then I can go back later and fill in as we work through the project. I can fill in those other things that tend to distract me when I'm trying to paint in a workshop, for sure. The second comment is that, Julie, you are in the absolute right place at the right time. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us, and you'll be amazed. I promise you. I am a case in point, and if you ever feel weird about it, you give me an email, and I'll talk you down from the ledge, because this is where you need to be.
Thank you. And
Period. The end.
Well, thank you. And then when it comes to the line drawing, I've been experimenting with another app to try to maybe clean it up a little bit so it's easier to understand. And I was very happy with it. But then I thought, oh, I started to take that into something that I did a long time ago, which were these little bunnies, and I wanted to make a coloring book, and that was fantastic. That was all great. But then something happened, and now it's starting to put things where they don't belong. And then, so that doesn't help me. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I want to make it as clean as possible. So I'm constantly trying to figure things out and work with new things. So redrawing it is just fine. What Sue said, absolutely. Going over it with a permanent Sharpie marker will help you see the line drawing better. And depending on what we're doing, sometimes I give a colorized version if we have a lot of things going on there. So I'm always thinking, what will help you? And because I find that exciting, I guess it's like a puzzle, trying to figure it out. Okay, everybody. So if you're going to join me over there in the meeting room, follow the link that I had. And let's see if I have it again here. Yep, right here. It's the same one you used to come into this meeting. And if not, I hope I get to see you at another class and I'll keep you posted. I'm going to let you know when well, we do have that I think I already put that in there for the next workshop for the prickly pear. And this is the next one. I believe this is the next one coming up. Yeah. I thought we'd stay with the tone. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. I so appreciate it. Come and join me in the meeting room. And Gwen, I'm so sorry that you can't be there with us. So I'm going to make sure that I have muted everybody in the background. There we go. Great. All right. So just give me a few minutes, start heading over in that direction, and I will see you there in a second. I need to close this meeting out and then just change a setting and we can use the same link. All right. Okay. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. And I'm going to see if I can give you a big ol' reaction. Yay. Just one heart. I was going to send you a lot of hearts. Is that yay? More hearts. Excellent. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I think this is so fun. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a bunch of funny faces there. Okay. Come and join me in the other room. All right. I'll see you in just a minute. Okay. Take care. Bye.